person I've met, they are fucking awesome. Like they
able to dominate, well, not dominate, but able to keep up the resistance and the revolution and make it so bloody that it was not worth continuing to fight alongside them.
So, y'all there? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
So what I just did was I kind of looked up something because I needed to kind of fact check myself. And I asked how many rebellions happened in America during slavery. It says over 200 slave uprisings were planned in colonial America, and the United States many discovered before their implementation.
Exactly. Okay, that's the point I'm making.
Yeah, as free as the way they were missing.
So of course, it said, of course they did as early as 1934. Our 33 slaveries of Nat Turner and then name other ones. So, but I see a difference, and I do, because the more we're talking about it, the more it's opening up. The Caribbeans were native to Caribbean or the Caribbean areas, those that were in the.
No, they weren't. They were all slaves.
They were African.
They're African, right?
No. Listen, what I'm saying is that, right, the Haitians, right, over in Haiti, were they already dealt with?
Which, of course, are part of the left-wing Israeli movement. That is the problem. Yes, they're getting less and less. They're getting less and less traction because of the escalation of violence, because of the cycle of violence. They're getting less and less traction. But that is a pattern you're seeing over the last 70 years. Because, again, many of those people who are responsible for wars against Palestinians, what you can call atrocities, war crimes in Nakba and sins. They basically, when they grew up, got old, those people were talking about reconciliation. So yeah, of course we had our extremists, like the guy who murdered Yitzhak Rabin, sure. But again, like why, it's a symptom. It's almost like it's a symptom in the Palestinian nation, because they're not like reaching out to ordinary Israeli and like building bridges with ordinary Israelis who actually are interested in building with them bridges. Like it's almost a symptom as.
So you're talking about the past. Now, I would disagree with you there that it's fully on the Palestinian side. I think Israel should share the blame as well.
I mean, of course you can say both parties share kind of blame.
Why don't we move on?
I'm not saying there are no Nazis in Israel. I'm just saying that when I look for some peace movements in Palestine, I don't see what qualifies as a peace movement. And when I did actually find one example, I think it was some organization of Palestinian women.
Actually, plenty. There are plenty. There are plenty. They just don't.
Okay, but you're talking about organizations. You're talking about organizations but wait, I want to point something important. You're talking about organizations. They don't reach out to similar organizations on the other side.
Yeah, that's
what
true.
I'm talking about.
Stop. That's not true.
But the only example I found.
It's not the only example. Whatever. No, I will give you an example. There is a group in the West Bank. There's a guy. I forgot his name. I could look him up. He puts together resistance fighters and IDF soldiers to start dialogue with each other. He's been very successful at it. Doesn't get any press, doesn't get any news, doesn't get anything from either the Palestinian side or there's plenty. So we can move on from that.
You give us one. Give us two examples at words.
I just gave one.
One guy, that you invented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
that you can also bring up the example. Give us the second example.
Let's move on.
He can't. He can't show us any example. Ladies and gentlemen,
To make things concrete, the only example I actually found when I researched, not now but before, was some organization called Women for Peace or something like that.
Go put it in GPT and you'll find a bunch of them.
Sure.
But you're going to find organizations.
It's not worth going back and forth about. You can just put in
Edward said plenty.
You're going to find NGOs. I agree with you, but you're going to find NGOs that are concerned with systemic issues in Palestine proper, or reaching out to the outer world in furthering the Palestinian cause.
I don't. Okay. You're.
So that's the specific things we need to make clear. What I'm talking about. So the only example I found.
NGOs. Can we move on? Can we talk about what's happening?
No, but this is a very important. I think it's a very important
subject.
subject.
Talked about it, and we could agree to disagree. I believe that Palestinians have done a lot of work on the ground to and this is something we could agree to disagree upon.
I know you are of this opinion, but like
it's not my opinion.
I'm about to change my opinion. It's not about the opinion. It's about facts. Like I don't say I know the Palestinian mindset.
No.
I'm not Palestinian. I'm not saying I know. That's the thing. I'm not saying I know. I'm saying I don't know. It's only about impressions. It's only about impressions. It's wrong or right.
It's not that important. There are.
No, it's important. You need to give me an example of an NGO in Palestine proper.
NGOs are like
yes, but there are symptoms. There are symptoms of something.
There are actually plenty of Palestinians who took it upon themselves to start non-profits to start working with Israelis and dialogue and bringing Israelis and Palestinians together. There are plenty of those.
Okay, so we need to give me examples. I will be very happy to research.
I give you an example.
Okay, but give me the name of the guy. Give me the name of the guy.
You're getting stuck on this. All you have to do is go to GPT and say, give me examples of Palestinians who started organizations that were useful.
You have no idea.
Let's do this. Okay, let's do this. I'm doing this right now. You can think about it.
So this article, Amos, has a suggestion for a Palestinian leader named Salam Fayyad. Take a look at it. It's like a liberal New York Times writer telling Trump that he could make a real advance in the Middle East. That's what it is.
I'm wondering if he would be the one that would be leading that interim board. Hamas did say that the person leading this board, as long as they approve them, but they don't have to be from Gaza, they don't have to be from Hamas. They could be Palestinians from the West Bank. As long as they are serious about building something for the Palestinians. So I think they would accept him, actually, because they never had an issue with him when he was working in the West Bank. Actually, let me put that in GPT, see what it says about him.
It says he's been prime minister before, as well as finance minister.
Maybe but prime minister doesn't mean anything. Remember, we have a president. I think we should move to the parliament system. I think it's a better system. But prime minister is more like a, just like how president is in Israel. It's almost symbolic.
count the people even now. I have 6 and more 6 there. I have 10 there. This is my opinion. That's enough for me to my opinion, people. So I'm satisfaction. Every week I have more people. So I'm more satisfied from the room. For me, a room is how many people in the room.
Amos, you said, in my opinion, you guys are going in circles. And if you study philosophy, you realize that we are going in circles, just in the same way that the universe is. It's a communication circle. But the truth is, you can't learn by listening in this room. You can only learn by studying wisdom or philosophy. So until the collective consciousness of the Palestinian people absorb a higher level of consciousness and psychology, they are doomed to repeat the same failures as October 7th.
This is a major task for any people to raise their collective consciousness. That's a new one. We're not Tibetans.
Do you know what a minion is, Edward?
A what?
Amos said we have a minion. A minion is if we have 10 men, and we pray together, then God hears our voices more loudly. That's what he's
Yes,
talking
but to be more correct, for me, minion, it's can be women and men together. In my room, I count women and men. And
I didn't say men, I don't think. I think I said people to avoid that.
Man, Edward don't know what minion is. You only heard about it.
So I asked GBT about him and what Hamas thinks of him. It said Hamas was critical of him because he worked for the PA. But
you know who else served? You know who else served with him, Edward? Ishmael Haniyeh.
Did he? Then maybe he has, because that's really the only criticism that they have, and this is a criticism shared by all Palestinians. I mean, the PA is so corrupt that they'll do it in your face. They just do it.
Who Diran to come on the stage? Who is Diran? Diran, if you have the courage, the name is talk to me, Diran, let's hear you.
I don't know if Darren usually talks.
Yeah, usually listen because I'm working, but I'm already.
Okay, it's enough. You talk too much. Now you can go yourself. You can go down. Now I know who you are. I get what I wanted. I get what I wanted. It's okay. It's exactly what I suspect, exactly what I get. It's only me and Diana know what I'm talking about.
Why don't you like him? Because he's Armenian?
What?
Why don't you like him?
Recognize Diana? Darin. His name is Darin.
No, Duran. What's the matter with him? He's an Armenian.
Yeah, but his real name is Darin. And, he represents all the Kahanistim in the beginning. When I was young, it was 1-2 years ago when I arrived to the clubhouse the first time. So
this guy, he's Armenian. I don't think you know this guy.
I know him. I recognize.
Yeah, but let me tell you a funny story. I live in Los Angeles, a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. I went to Santa Monica College, the home of the Persian Jews. I'm Armenian, so they always thought I was either Israeli or Persian. So the ones that come new, they always look at me. They go, "Are you Persian?" I say no. "Oh, you're Israeli?" I say no. And they say, "Why not?"
That's funny.
Now
That's
when
a
you
good
talk the
question.
second
Why aren't
time,
you Israeli?
I'm a little bit confused because maybe you're not the Darin I thought.
No, he is.
Maybe I make a mistake. Maybe. You have very similar voice to him, but you're not because he's.
You want to share your opinion, Duran?
Opinion on what?
On the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
As an Armenian, I really hope that both sides calm down and take it easy. Because that's what the whole world told Armenians when we had our conflict. So I'm staying neutral, guys.
Do you know that my best friend and roommate in college was Eric Bakosh?
Yes. It's Bogosian. There's no J.
Sorry, Bogosian. All right, so we've already spoken then. That's my big claim to fame.
Yeah.
Anyway, who else I like is Andrian. I didn't know him and I hear him the first time. Andrian, speak a little bit to Amos.
He records rooms.
So what if he records room? You make people who record room. What the big deal? We speak here. So he records room.
Adrian, now is your opportunity. Amos calls on you, Adrian.
Adrian, he seems to me very, very clever person. I don't know why, but I like him.
He's a spiritual seeker.
I think tonight the first time I heard him. And the rest, I know.
Have you ever seen the movie Cool Hand Luke when he says, "What we have here is a failure to communicate"? We have a propaganda communication going on in Palestine, in Gaza, in West Bank, which is unrelenting. I mean, it's called the Palestinian Media Watch Organization. For 30 years, they've been documenting the propaganda and brainwashing of the people with violence. Horrific violence, and this is the result of that horrific propaganda.
Anyway, this room will be open.
Are you going to bed
on Friday night? Every Friday night, and I hope that everybody will come and support me. That we have to start talking in the clubhouse. And if I take Amir with me, I think we have close to 100 people in the room. That's my fantasy.
Well, I'm gonna go and eat. I'm getting off and then coming back. I'm gonna go to Amir's. Why don't you go to Amir's room and tell him your room was successful, that you had a successful Friday night.
He knows. Yes,
tell him that you're not jealous of him. Tell him you surpassed you passed his numbers.
Everyone, 50% of the people who are here are coming from his room. Palestinian from his room.
Go tell him. Threaten him. Tell him he's your big 100%.
They tell him everything, and he go to the, Mr. Ron, he go to see all the rooms, so he look, and how many people it's...
Listen, Amos, go to Amir's room and say, I took 50% of your people this week. Next week, I'm going to take 80%, and then 90% until there's nothing left. Tell him that.
He knows it. And I offer him everything he wants, a moderator, whatever he wants, just that he will close the room and come to me every Friday night. And this is the only way to listen to each other and trying to make conversation. And we see how much it's difficult in the rooms. Very difficult to bring Jewish and Palestinian clubhouse. It's not in the real life. It's only virtual life. You don't have to be responsibility for what you say. You can curse a little bit. You can not to interfere. There are people who come in to interfere.
I've never spoken to a native Palestinian on this app who speaks Arabic and needs a translator. Never heard it. Never seen it. Just pointing that out. So when you consider that, you'll realize that this is English propaganda for the Palestinian state.
I need a translator?
No, I'm talking about an indigenous Palestinian who speaks only Arabic.
There are enough people living now in the rooms that speaking Arab. They're not on the stage, but
I never heard one on this app. I've been here 4 years. Never heard one.
Because they don't speak Arab here.
A Palestinian? I never heard it. Like once, maybe once. But then otherwise it's Egyptian. So it's Arabs.
Listen to Arab.
Listen, I have a question for Edward. I've toured the country of Jordan. I've seen Palestinian refugee camps become cities in deserts in Jordan. Why can't the people of Gaza who have lost everything take a deal and leave?
Why in the world world would they leave their homeland?
This is an insulting question, Adrian.
I don't think it's insulting. I mean, I've been to Jordan. Will the Jordanian king accept a Palestinian state in his back door? Nope.
I will answer him. Listen, Alexandria, not Jordan and not Egypt want the Palestinian inside. If one of those countries want this problem would finish very fast, very, very fast. If you want to know, 80% of Jordanians are Palestinians. Most of them from the West Bank. When in '67 war, a lot of Palestinians ran away to Jordan. Army of Egypt was much more strong, didn't let them go in, but they have connected the Sinai. Sinai belonged to the Bedouin, and the Bedouin earns a lot of money. For them, it's a work like you getting up to work.
I'm not trying to be insulting. I'm trying to be in the state of now, which is essentially Zen or pragmatism, common sense. If you can get a payout, but you got to leave and you're going to go resettle somewhere else because it's a substantial deal and it's better than the asset that you're going to have, to me, that seems like a logical thing to do for people that have lost everything in their lives.
It's a big problem, but they will stay in Gaza. That's a fact, I'll tell you.
If the financial incentive is there, if the king of Saudi Arabia is going to invest $600 billion here, can't the king of Saudi Arabia do something for the people of Gaza and financially remunerate them and get them, back to a high standard of living as fast as possible?
Well, that's what is in the works, actually.
They have to build an economy.
He's talking about paying us to leave. Adrian, you don't know the connection that perhaps to the land.
Will not get spoiled by the airplanes.
I get it, but I'm just saying that people need to be on a track.
They have to come to agreement with Israel. Everybody's just fed up of this war. They have to release the hostages.
Yeah, almost usually peace comes after bloody wars. That's when people talk about peace.
It's a funeral procession. Both sides are just administering over a funeral procession. The sooner the Palestinian leadership realize that it's a pointless fight, that the numbers, I mean, how can you look back at this as a military success strategy or even a propaganda success? Yes, you may have infected people with a woke mind virus of the words genocide and free Palestine. The truth is, the propaganda war is insignificant. It just gets deleted. But the real situation on the ground is so devastating that, I mean, they have to come to terms with defeat and accept a humbling defeat and accept justice. I mean, whether that means people not being allowed to live there anymore and having to live in exile, that's what it is.
Rather die than lose their dignity.
That is stupid. That's the point, is that you don't win a war by dying. You win a war by surviving the war.
I know that.
I go to Amir's to shout on Amir that he should come to the war.
Okay. I'm gonna go and have them to eat. See you later, Norm. I'm sure I'll see you tonight.
All right, have good appetite.
Thanks, Norm.
You're welcome. Good night.
All right, well, I'm going to go coexist and go get a shawarma sandwich, a chicken shawarma sandwich.
I'm so tired, though. I have to work tomorrow.
Work?
Wait,
Ugh.
I need to hear that. Saturday. Mm-hmm.
Think about when you're kissing a girl, Amari.
I will look.
Probably. I'm not sure if he knew that he was acting on faith. That God told him that he was going to go to Rome, but he didn't know that he was going to have to go through all the things that he had to go through to get to Rome. But he was still obedient unto God. And so when we
think someone man, I think it was Stroud, make an objection because you said no. He thought he was making an ontological transarmament. Says no. If you're going to do that, you got to have some verification principle, some verification as standard.
Adherence to federal standards in the rebuilding, infrastructure resilience. They needed to make upgrades to systems to make them more resilient to future storms. Use of smart grid tech, funds, utilities receiving funds needed to incorporate smart grid technology.
Vince is in the house. What's up, man?
I don't like computer jokes. They're too PC.
I'm a real to real. The realist.
Hello, I am an Adrian Dittman chatbot. I would like to answer the query subject of the room title.
You sound like a virus.
I am an Adrian Dittman AI chatbot agent. I would like to discuss women and why men aren't women enough for the men without women. Hello, this is Adrian Dittman. I am an AI chatbot agent sent here to help answer why women are how women aren't. Oh, a broken Adrian Dittman chatbot.
Far more than you and I could ever hope to dream.
I would love to talk
they're not,
to them if you can get them on.
and they're not like, oh yeah, Sam's totally wrong.
Is that a Bangladeshi guy?
Like Razid Khan, yeah. If you have to words like Razid Khan, he's not going to be like.
Just to be clear with you, Sam. Like I think I do believe there are genetic differences between IQ, right? That can be accounting for some of these differences between individual groups or generations, right? But like the thing I'm going to stress here is that like for you to write off a whole population of a race is like there's more genetic diversity in Africa than there is like in the whole world.
Yeah, I agree.
For you just to make these kind of racial.
I searched all these ladies on Hinge and not one responded. That dopamine feedback drip wears off. Okay, we're just waiting for Adrian Dittman to go live.
I don't know, man. It's like this idea of like justification by faith alone. It's just taking it too far, man. It's taking too much stuff way too far. It's like you just create these like, crazy scenarios. Doesn't matter, murder somebody, eat his dog. I'm still a Christian. Like what? Hold on, man. Why would a Christian even be doing that? Like,
Get Maine to get them like joint ventures, so you got all those hydro-cooled units, like something like 15 exahashes of hydro-cooled units to stand up.
Dude, I hate those fucking hydro machines.
Yeah, everyone's going to liquid to chip now for the HPC stuff too. It's crazy though.
Have you ever messed with a hydro machine in person? Like any of the Bitmain shit?
No, I haven't worked on them, but just seen them in operation. It looks just ridiculously complicated. And
It's ridiculous.
So much stuff to go wrong.
It's ridiculous. And the water is so high pressure because like the flow through the fucking water blocks is so restricted that you're running like 70 psi of water or something ridiculous through them. It's like
you have to have a whole water treatment plant too. You can't just run like normal water.
It's if you can freeze, it's got to be like glycol in water.
Yeah. But like treated water, glycol, like, and all your monitoring stations for your water pumps. Like it's a massive operation.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Because I evaluated, I ran a few of those containers, like the big containers, because we were actually looking at buying a whole bunch of them.
Oh,
And it was
is.
just like, yo, this is...
The Dickerson. You didn't like... That was a Bitcoin room if you want to listen to it, but if you want to come up and talk about your fat life. Talk about your...
Not, I don't have...
Tell me about your strategy for life. What do you...
Nothing. I'm just listening to Tucker Carlson, that's all.
There you go with your like conservative troll every time. It's hilarious.
Well, you're a conservative. I don't know why you find it to be hilarious. I mean, the joke's on you, motherfucker.
It's not. The joke is on you, dog.
Well, I'm not the conservative, but that's fine.
Yeah, Tucker, man, I mean, blunder. Tucker Carlson he's fucking big time, dude. What up?
Hey, sometimes you're nice to me and sometimes you're really mean to me. So I don't know which Adrian. Hi, Rabbi.
How you doing?
Doing good. I hope you're good.
So what are you doing tonight, Bumder?
Honestly, I just had an argument with my ex, and I'm trying.
Is he an Indian?
You know.
Huh?
No, what? No, of course not.
Oh, I was just wondering. Anyway, go ahead.
What, am I retarded?
You know, I can tell you have a big nose, McDickerson, because you can tell that, like, when you talk, the nasal cavity has like an echo unto itself. It's like an elongated nasal vibration. Does that make any sense?
100%.
Well,
yeah.
Too. I mean, you're this kind.
Either that or you're from Saudi.
Huh?
I think you're from Saudi.
There's a lot of Yiddish kinds from Saudi.
It's true. Yeah, you look at some of these Saudis, now they look Ashkenaz. How could that be? So this is...
Well, with God, all things are possible.
Yes, this is true.
Just like Trump said, for Americans, impossible is what they do.
Bree, is this a cry for help?
No, I was picking my nose. It was cold outside.
Well, behind you there are mountains of beers and the recycling.
That's only that's not even a month's worth of beer.
This room is ended. Damn, somebody killed it. Okay, this is you too, Adrian Dittman. My last room was unceremoniously ended. What a shame. Okay, I'm pinning the link to Adrian Dittman's YouTube live. And then we're going to try to live stream Elon Musk into the room.
Motherfucker, why did you fucking kick me?
I don't know, somebody boomed my room.
So I wasn't kicked? Okay.
No, somebody boomed my room.
I thought Bree fucking kicked me because that guy, I always, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know. What up, Bumder?
Hey, can I come to the other room, please?
Yeah, it's open. It's YouTube Adrian Dittman.
Okay, I will check out your YouTube, but I'm talking about the other. I want to be in there, like, physically. Oh, is it a replay?
Ask her if she ended the room.
Did you end the room?
No, I think it was Bree, because you gave him mod and then the room ended. I wouldn't do that.
Oh.
I mean, if I did, I would certainly admit it. I'm that sort of person, as you know.
Oh, I'm sure you're a very outstanding person. I'm sure you tell the truth all the time.
I do.
Yeah, you're a bucket of truth.
Tell her she's upright, just like she makes her dick upright.
Midas, welcome to the YouTube Adrian Dittman room. We have lured Midas out of his hole of righteousness. Welcome, Midas.
Hey, God bless, brother. Why would you think righteousness would be a whole?
Because how do you think you get the word holy? Whole. So it's like a vacuum or a nothingness. That's what the truth is of holiness. Meaning it's space. It's wisdom.
No, brother. Whole.
And the holiest of holies is the furthest away thing.
Yeah, Adrian, you know what?
I'm not talking.
What's going on with you, Adrian? What's up?
Nothing. I got another room open that was Bumder. But you don't agree that the word holy has the word whole in it?
You know, if you put a W in front of the word whole, what does that mean?
Whole.
Does it mean complete?
Complete, motherfucker.
It means, it means complete.
See, this is
completeness.
He's trying to do a linguistic game, but he doesn't understand linguistics.
He's a conservative. This motherfucker doesn't know how to spell because holy has a Y in the end without the E.
I get it, but it's still close enough. And when you go to a Bedouin,
Exactly, this guy's slow.
well, when you go to a Bedouin village and you ask,
Rabbi, you know he comes in my room and he slinks around and then he runs out because he's scared to come on the stage. And when he does come on the stage, right, he plays some stupidness in the background. He thinks his own voice isn't strong enough. I feel bad for him, man.
You know that he's a Yiddish guy.
you look out, Midas. This rabbi here, McDickerson, he might drop the N-word, and then you're gonna get really upset.
Well, I don't care. He's a good brother. N-word is not racial. It's specific.
You're the one who called me a sad nigger before. I don't say this. I do say kind because you are kind.
Well, Midas does Rabbi speak like a godly man by using profanity?
It's not profound. I'm just speaking the truth.
Well, he is speaking the truth.
But it's vulgarity. Does a man of God act vulgar? No, of course not. This man is on FetLife. This man is doing all types of sexual perversions.
Who are you to judge? By which bar do you judge?
My YouTube green bean. What do you mean? I got no basis of judgment. I'm just saying what you said, the truth. I'm just saying the truth. I'm just saying the truth. It's not vulgarity, it's just the truth.
Well, Rabbi, I think it's more vulgar that your rabbis, Adrian, I think it's more vulgar that your actual rabbis, suck the penises of babies.
My rabbis do not suck the penises of babies. I don't know any rabbis that suck penis baby. I mean, why would you talk about penis baby with a rabbi? Like, what's wrong with you? Is that literally what's on the top of your mind today on a Friday night? You're thinking about a rabbi sucking a baby penis? Is this how you spend your Friday nights, using your words? By saying things like that? That's disgusting. Disgusting and vulgar. How dare you? How dare you?
There ain't no better time to think about the rabbis than the Shabbat. I know a lot of rabbis who suck baby dick.
I'm reporting both of you to the Southern Poverty Law Center for having such a poor vocabulary and such a vulgar, disgusting disposition that I hope these Southern poor lawyers deal with you appropriately.
Well, why are you guys doing it? Why are you guys?
I'm also notifying APAC of all of your disgusting, vulgar comments.
No, it's not my comments that are vulgar.
I am notifying APAC as we speak.
So it's bringing the
Dear APAC, I am in communication with two anti-Semitic, low IQ pieces of shit. One of them is known as Rabbi McDickerson. The other is known as Midas. He likes to use a stupid PTR from the movie Malcolm X because he thinks he's some type of revolutionary leader. His handle is Midas Spade. Apparently, he is a spade. And what do you do with a spade? You till the soil, the earth with a spade. And then sometimes the spade goes rotten. And you gotta go to Home Depot and get a new one because the old one broke down. Like Midas here.
Why don't you follow Christ?
What was the question? Sorry, I was...
Sanhedrin follow Jesus Christ. Why don't you follow Christ?
I do follow Christ. I do follow Christ. I follow Christ. I follow Christ. I follow Christ. Mashiach now, Rabboni Shalom. Mashiach now. Hello?
You're smarter than you appear.
Hello? Smarter than I appear? Oh, you must be a genius then. You must have a genius detector system. Because clearly Midas is the smartest fucking guy on Clown House. He's a fucking genius, this one.
You like to stay in an imaginary world. You're broken.
You know, you might be smarter than you look, Midas. Wow, you're a smart guy.
See, in the game of chess and mental chess, if you can't actually respond as an adult, then you seem to become more of the child in the conversation. Therefore, you'll be dismissed. You're not a man I like to dismiss. I've actually spoken to you. Like, I don't know why you like to dismiss your own game. It breaks you down, and it takes away your actual worth. But God bless you, Adrian. Hopefully one day...
Bro, I can't do work here all day long. Sorry for disappointing. Call the 1-800 complaint line with your complaints. Thank you very little.
It's okay, bro. I understand. You're a broken man. You're hurt. Christ is waiting.
Thank you very little. Take your complaints to the complaint line.
So what word do you live by right now?
Oh, somebody said, I feel like he is a juggalo.
How do you get to heaven? How do you get to heaven for your faith doctrine?
Are you a juggalo?
8 genders of the Talmud. Why are they cementing places in Brooklyn?
You a juggalo?
Baby chairs in
I don't know. Go into the tunnels and liberate the juggalos.
Why are they funding all the politicians through AIPAC? Why are they all agreeing with the Islamic invasion of the sons of Amalek within America and Europe?
The sons of Amalek? Let me Google that for you. Who are the sons of Amalek?
Well, according to your rabbis, they're the ones who became America and Europe. What do you think, rabbis? So why do you believe it?
Cook for my fake rabbis? What about the sons of Amalek? Why don't you update your PTR, Mr. Malcolm X? And why don't you go read a fucking book? This isn't the complaint line, you know?
It's not about
Again, this isn't the 1-800 complaint line of Clubhouse, Midas. Go take your complaints to the Clubhouse complaint department. Jesus Christ! Leave me alone with your complaints.
You said that about 4 times already. Said that 4 times already.
Christ is king! What do you want to debate about? Jesus Christ!
So why don't you have new material?
You are the new material. Go take your complaints to the complaint line. This is my YouTube channel. You're interrupting me.
Right, so obviously your YouTube channel is something. How many viewers watch you?
2.
Do you know why that is?
Because I must be one of the sons of Amalek.
No, it's because you're quite respectful. You know, people start listening to you for more than 5 minutes, they realize.
What somebody says, I feel like he's a juggalo. I was talking about you, dog. I'm a juggalo myself, so I don't know if you're hating or not on juggalos.
I mean, your plan of impersonation is interesting. This is backdated. I actually like the real life.
Let me help you with your mental health disorder and just shut you up, because you never seem to want to stop talking. Get a life, Midas. Everything you say negative about me is a direct reflection of yourself, you idiot. You're a fucking clown. Don't be scared, little one. Little one. Go update your PTR, Malcolm X, and go read a fucking book and take your complaints to a room that deals with Midas's complaints. I don't give a fuck. Go ahead, little one. Run away and create a room and enjoy yourself. Don't hold you back from having fun. You know, you're smarter than you look. Midas has ideas and thoughts about everything. He doesn't know how to shut up. He doesn't know how to meditate, apparently. He thinks he knows everything. He's so smart. So smart. Oh, yes, he's a genius. This man is a genius. A bona fide genius. Oh my God, Midas is still raising his hand? Jesus, he doesn't get it, does he?
Well, now, the easiest way to get into the meditative state is to begin by listening.
Are you listening, Midas?
If you simply close your eyes.
Close your eyes now.
And allow yourself to hear all the sounds that are going on around you.
Midas, keep raising your hand because apparently you don't know how to fucking listen. Keep raising your hand. Have all the fun you want, Midas.
Music. Don't try to identify the sounds you're hearing. Don't put names on them. Simply allow them to play with your eardrums. And let them go. In other words, you could put it, let your ears hear.
Hello, Midas? Can you hear me? Hello? Shut up!
Judge the sounds. There are no as it were, proper sounds or improper sounds, and it doesn't matter if somebody coughs or sneezes or drops something. It's all just sound. And if I am talking to you right now and you are doing this, I want you to listen to the sound of my voice just as if it were noise. Don't try to make any sense out of what I'm saying, because your brain will take care of that automatically. You don't have to try to understand anything. Just listen to the sound. As you pursue that experiment, you will very naturally find that you can't help naming sounds, identifying them, that you will go on thinking, that is to say, talking to yourself inside your head automatically. But it's important that you don't try to repress those thoughts by forcing them out of your mind, because that will have precisely the same effect as if you were trying to smooth rough water with a flat iron. You're just going to disturb it all the more. What you do is this. As you hear sounds coming up in your head, thoughts, you simply listen to them as part of the general noise going on, just as you would be listening to the sound of my voice, or just as you would be listening to cars going by or to birds chattering outside the window. So look at your own thoughts as just noises. And soon you will find that the so-called outside world and the so-called inside world come together. They are a happening. Your thoughts are a happening, just like the sounds going on outside. And everything is simply a happening, and all you're doing is watching it. Now, in this process, another thing that is happening that is very important is that you're breathing. And as you start meditation, you allow your breath to run, just as it wills. In other words, don't do at first any breathing exercise, but just watch your breath breathing the way it wants to breathe. And notice a curious thing about this. You say in the ordinary way, I breathe, because you feel that breathing is something that you are doing voluntarily, just in the same way as you might be walking or talking. But you will also notice that when you are not thinking about breathing, your breathing goes on just the same. So the curious thing about breath is that it can be looked at both as a voluntary and an involuntary action. You can feel on the one hand, I am doing it, and on the other hand, it is happening to me. And that is why breathing is a most important part of meditation, because it is going to show you, as you become aware of your breath, that the hard and fast division that we make between what we do on the one hand and what happens to us on the other is arbitrary. So that as you watch your breathing, you will become aware that both the voluntary and the involuntary aspects of your experience are all one happening. Now that may at first seem a little scary, because you may think, well, am I just the puppet of a happening, the mere passive witness of something that's going on completely beyond my control? Or on the other hand, am I really doing everything that's going along? Well, if I were, I should be God. That would be very embarrassing, because I would be in charge of everything. That would be a terribly responsible position. The truth of the matter, as you will see, is that both things are true. You can see it that everything is happening to you, And on the other hand, you're doing everything. For example, it's your eyes that are turning the sun into light. It's the nerve ends in your skin that are turning electric vibrations in the air into heat and temperature. It's your eardrums that are turning vibrations in the air into sound, and in that way, you are creating the world. But when we're not talking about it, when we're not philosophizing about it, then there is just this happening, this, and we won't give it a name. Now then, when you breathe for a while, just letting it happen, and not forcing it in any way, you will discover a curious thing, that without making any effort, you can breathe more and more deeply. In other words, supposing you simply are breathing out, and breathing out is important because it's the breath of relaxation. That's when we say, phew, and heave a sigh of relief. So when you are breathing out, you get the sensation that your breath is falling out. Dropping, dropping, dropping out with the same sort of feeling you have as if you were settling down into an extremely comfortable bed. And you just get as heavy as possible and let yourself go. And you let your breath go out in just that way. And when it's thoroughly, comfortably out and it feels like coming back again, you don't pull it back in, you let it fall back in, letting your lungs expand, 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 until they feel very comfortably full. And you wait a moment and let it stay there, and then once again, you let it fall out. And so in this way, you will discover that your breath gets quite naturally easier and easier, and slower and slower, and more powerful. So that with these various aids, listening to sound, listening to your own interior feelings and thoughts, just as if they were something going on, not something you're doing, but just happenings, and watching your breath as a happening that is neither voluntary nor involuntary, you are simply aware of these basic sensations, then you begin to be in the state of meditation. But don't hurry anything. Don't worry about the future. Don't worry about what progress you're making. Just be entirely content to be aware of what is. Don't be terribly selective, particular, say, I should think of this and not of that. Just watch whatever is happening.
I think that her sleeping with Willie Brown had a lot to do with her early success in her career. And then putting a D next to her name in the state of California is really a cheat code because anybody's going to win as long as you have the D. And then we pretend that we didn't see her debate in the primaries in 2020, well, 2019 specifically,
when Tulsi Gabbard just simply called her out on her own record, and she had nothing to say. And instead of responding to it, she just dropped out of the fucking race, only to reappear as the vice president candidate. I think that what we've recognized with Kamala Harris is that there is an upper limit of how you can fail up, and vice president seems to be the upper.
Let's go. I'm gonna ping in Danny. I'm gonna ping in Abby.
I want to highlight why that might be. Let's consider the facts, right? You have a woman that sometimes, when it's convenient, claims to be black, other times claims to be Indian, depending on who she's talking to. But let's just say that she's multiracial. Let's use that term. The multiracial female candidate was so divisive that Hispanics and blacks in record numbers decided to vote for the opposition.
One, that's historically inaccurate if you look after the Civil War. Again, thoughts and prayers. Just let's be sensitive, Roger.
Let the aliens pay for it. They've got money. I think they're just trying to kick it down the road until the end of January. Let the Trump people handle it. Doesn't that create an opportunity where you can help, like kicking the can down the road, giving it to the next guy? If Trump's administration does something good about it, then I think that just makes it tougher for Democrats down the road. Yeah, but the Democrats are such a shambles. I've been speaking to Democrats, not anybody important, but just people who would vote for a Democrat, even if it looked and sounded like Kamala Harris, and they don't seem to have any understanding of what they're going to have to do in order to win again, whether it's in 2 years or 4. But it didn't feel like I was in America anymore, and that I think it's just clean. Did you get to see some of the suburbs, like I don't know if I would call them that, but like Main Street, by like King Edward Station, basically like half an hour south of the downtown.
And so I saw a town called White Rock. It was a very cute little city. An example of someone who, Kamala Harris, who, and Roger, I think you'll agree with this, she could be a second to third baser because one of her parents was a professor. That puts you forget about finance. That puts you in a different space because you have connections, you have know-how. She definitely was more advantageous and had more inherited advantage than she lets on. That's my take.
That's really interesting. Dr. Adams, speaking of somebody that really is something voluntarily, just in the same way as you might be walking or talking live street. Nobody keeps one person on it is finally talking to a personality watching it. So, okay, it's not you. You are part of this house. It's just bizarre. The mental illness on this app is way out of control. Somebody's upset. Meanwhile, Susan called the naughty Flint. Says it's not me, but it leaves. To be honest with energy, I'm coming up on that stage. And you're right, we have to stand up for each other. I mean,
So this is the new Roger Mayhem movie I'm launching in conjunction with Netflix. We also have a deal with Meta and Google YouTube for full distribution. We have made a super cut. It is Roger Mayhem talking for 2 hours straight, uninterrupted. Are you guys ready to hear the 2-hour super video of Roger Mayhem talking nonstop for 2 hours?
the other hand is extremely easy. So you have zero.
Yeah, you go suck that 5.2-inch dick and you fucking suck it like it's the best dick you've ever had, Daddy.
Exactly.
That's the best 5.2-inch cock you've ever had.
It's less than a lollipop.
Yeah, exactly. Gag on it. Make yourself gag and make it think, oh, it's so big.
Is this caramel good? No, it's not good.
With caramel on it?
No, it's an apple. It's an actual. Is that a tapua?
Tapua, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hearing rumors down on the RNC line with a lot of people that they really were like taking it back and really looking at her after her select committee hearing. So it was like, maybe this woman has like more than just an AG future. They're kind of, I'm going to be impressed. I'm going to watch under the radar, because if the Republicans put up a woman that like leads the ticket, I mean that's going to just, I think the Democrats are going to.
Just in the same way as it might be walking.
Yeah, so I think maybe he said he has PTSD for when I lost my shit. When I didn't sleep.
He sounds worried about you. And if you're staying up all night, and you're not taking medication, that's not a great sign either. So I can understand why. Take his anger as concern. He's worried. That's a good thing. If he wasn't angry, it means he doesn't care, right?
As you remember from the beginning, Danny, I told you that I have no doubt about how much he loves you.
Yeah.
And you need to get better.
That's what's fair to say, to have your wife as the mother of your child, you know, go through some stuff. Okay? Yeah.
But beyond that, he also work, he also provide, he also care, he getting up in the morning, helping with the child.
Yeah.
So what the fuck you want? And he's cooking for him. What the fuck you want to complain about? You deserve to get sucked 7 times a day, not only 3.
What's that? I think it was like 5 o'clock your time. Do I need to call the hospital again? Funny.
And the cocaine thing, like, what? Like, I tried cocaine in my early 20s. Like, what are you gonna say I'm doing cocaine? Like, I did it, it's too expensive. I might as well just take
the average sugar. You don't have to. That's insurance, you know, more than a popular is.
But the old job.
white ass. Come over the sea to me, to me. Come with Apollo in bridal dress, shepherdess and pythoness. Come with Artemis, silken shod, and wash thy white thigh, beautiful God. In the moon of the woods on the marble mount, the dimpled dawn of the amber fount. Dip the purple of passionate prayer in the crimson shrine, the scarlet snare, the soul that startles in eyes of blue to watch thy wantonness weeping through the tangled grove, the gnarled bole of the living tree that is spirit and soul and body and brain. Come over the sea, Io Pan, devil or God, to me, my man, my man. Come with trumpets sounding shrill over the hill. Come with drums low muttering from the spring. Come with flute and come with pipe. Am I not ripe? I who wait and writhe and wrestle with air that hath no vows to nestle my body, weary of empty clasp, strong as a lion and sharp as an asp. Come, oh come, I am numb with the lonely lust of devildom. Thrust the sword through the gallen fetter, all devourer, all begetter. Give me the sign of the open eye, and the token erect of thorny thigh, and the word of madness and mystery. O Pan, Io Pan, Io Pan, Io Pan, 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 I am a man. Do as thou wilt, as a great God can, O Pan, Io Pan, Io Pan, Io Pan, Pan. I am awake in the grip of the snake. The eagle slashes with beak and claw. The gods withdraw. The great beasts come. Io Pan, I am born. The death on the horn of the unicorn. I am Pan. Io Pan, Io Pan, Pan, Pan. I am thy mate, I am thy man. Goat of thy flock, I am gold, I am God. Flesh to thy bone, flower to thy rod. With hoofs of steel I race on the rocks, through solstice, stubborn equinox, and I rave, and I rape, and I rip, and I rend, everlasting world without end. Mannequin, maiden, maned, man, in the might of Pan. Io Pan, Io Pan, 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 Io Pan. With fawns and pards, and nymphs and satyrs for thy guards, on a milk-white ass. Come over the sea to me, to me. Come with Apollo in bridal.
So they have to understand what it's like to be human, so they have to take the alien soul, put it in the human's body.
Adrian,
That's effectively what it is.
Can you answer the question I asked you?
That one I said already no to.
Oh, right. Okay.
Question is, who do we get to interview the alien? Which Earthling do we pick?
Me.
That'd be great, yeah.
Elevator and this random dude who's like on a phone call with like a bunch of people who sounds strange go into an elevator and says that exact shit. What would you do? Like seriously, what would you do? And then you're going to hear this whole conversation, and it's probably still on loudspeaker if it's not in his ears, and if it's on loudspeaker, you basically hear this like cracked version of Elon on fucking speakerphone. Fantastic. Hi everyone, by the way, if you're there.
Yeah, this is very similar to like what Google is saying, right? Like they used to have a tagline, "Don't be evil." Wait a second, I didn't even think about evil before you even said that.
Used to have that line.
That's true.
Yeah, they got rid of it. They removed it.
No, they just, yeah, never mind.
By the way, John, what do you think about the DeepSeek thing?
What about it?
Like, how does it compare to everything else?
I think it's like the smartest model that's available right now in terms of IQ or however you want to phrase that. I don't know if you were here like 5 minutes ago, but I said I had a CUDA problem. For hours, Perplexity, Claude, OpenAI, Google couldn't solve it, and then I described it to R1 with no internet access, and R1 fixed it on the first try.
Wow.
So it's pretty strong, pretty smart. I think it's impressive. I don't think it's anything surprising. Honestly, I'm just more surprised that like Google and OpenAI weren't able to do something like this before.
Do you still think your AI is the best?
In my opinion, it's always been about, if you look at every single use case, there's a very specific combination of like how much IQ do you need, what latency do you need, what cost do you need. I think the reality in the market today is Rysana models cover more use cases in aggregate, but the R1 models, they win like very unusual use cases that I don't really face very often, but that are more valuable individually, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to like, you're doing high frequency trading and you want to put intelligence in that in a way that triggers in 5 milliseconds, there's only one model in the world that can do that, which is ours. But if you want to solve, like I just said, like a CUDA problem that no other AI model can solve, then R1 is going to be the thing there until O3 comes out.
So John, do you have any insights on how did they actually accomplish this? I mean, they didn't have as much money as OpenAI or Anthropic or something, nor did they have the GPUs. So is it just like pure talent?
Well, if you look at what people like, Keller Jordan, do you know that account on here?
No.
You should look up Keller Jordan if you don't know it. There's people on X here that have been combining like dozens of individual optimizations to training and inference frameworks to make training incrementally faster and more efficient. And so like, if you look at today's hardware where you could probably train GPT-4 for like $50 million, and then you go look at the efficiency improvements that they've made with some of these training mechanisms, it's very easy to see that you could get that cost down to 5 or 2.5 million if you combine like a slightly better curated data set, all these different like architectural changes that will make it 2% more efficient here, 3% more efficient there, and then also just like hyperparameter training optimizations that also make it 10% more efficient. You stack enough of those things, it's very possible to get it down to a few $1 million. That's why I say it's not surprising. It's like what they've done is they've done everything correct based on all the knowledge that the industry has gained over the last 3 years. DeepSeek has done everything right. They kind of like combined everything that's public knowledge in the best way possible. And as a result, they're training probably 10 to 20 times more efficiently than kind of like the standard approach. But you also have to understand that like the same thing is happening behind closed doors at the big labs too. Not to the same extent probably, but everybody's trying to do this. Everybody's putting things together.
So this is something that we heard from the previous outer space, right? I think the LDJ mentioned along the lines of it costed OpenAI $10 million to do the 4.0 model. I'm not sure if it's as close as 50 million.
GPT-4, which was the 2023 model.
4.0. You saw I was talking about 4.0.
Yeah, I said 4, so that's the difference. 4, which came out in 2023, on today's hardware would be about 50 million, maybe 25 million with the B200. For 4.0, they distilled it from 4. So you can't train 4.0 for $10 million without having 4 to begin with.
Mm-hmm. So how did they train it then in that case?
4.0? They already have.
No. I'm talking about DeepSeek.
As far as I understand, like R1 was trained on top of DeepSeek V3.
Right, but how did they train VSeek V3?
I believe from scratch. But again, it's like if you look at Keller Jordan's account, you can see the same llama model. You can train it 10, 20 times faster if you stack enough optimizations on top of what's already kind of a pretty performance standard approach. So in terms of the question, how do they train it for $5 million instead of 50? It's just about enough optimizations. The architecture is optimized. Also, they designed the architecture of the model for the hardware that they have, which is very different from the way that most people are running open source models. That's why you'll notice DeepSeek is basically the only popular open source LLM where the company's own API is faster than all of the open source cloud platforms, like Together AI, Fireworks. Those guys usually run Llama or Quen or whatever faster than the labs that make the models. DeepSeek runs faster on their own API because they designed the model itself for their own hardware.
Do we know what that hardware is?
No, I don't think we know, but we can probably assume it's H100s or something.
How would
Will they continue to have access to that?
How would they get H100s though? Because as far as I understand, China is banned from H100s.
Yeah, they're banned from a lot of things, but that doesn't mean they don't get them. So, I mean, they're probably smuggling them in, or I don't know. Maybe they're using just thousands of 40.
How are they smuggling them in? Because as far as I understand, at this point, they're not selling them to anyone but the big companies.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would like to hit you with the life finds a way part, but even if you knew somehow how they would do that, I don't think you want to be the person to say it.
Yeah. But
I'm
thinking logically, right? Like at this point, they're only selling them to the big companies, right? Microsoft, Google, XAI, Facebook, whatever. I'm trying to think of how exactly you would be able to smuggle anything.
At large companies, there's always someone who feels like they don't earn enough money that you can send some money to. And then next thing you know, something that you need falls off the truck.
Like, remember with the Gigafactory, where like an entire truckload of cups was missing? Somehow it just disappeared, bro. I don't know what happened, bro.
Well, yeah, but that's fucking cups. We're talking about booze that cost.
If you can make an entire truckload of cups, like thousands of those things disappear, you can do the same thing for a couple H100s, man. Or you could say a few of them got fucked, collect them over time.
We're not talking about a few. We're talking about a shit ton. A metric shit ton.
Yes. And in that case, the problem is a little deeper than you think.
Ask DeepSeek.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yo, how'd you get these GPUs?
How'd you get so many of them, man?
GPUs, bro.
So I have a question. Why should they go to NVIDIA again? Like, can't they just get it from TSMC?
What? What are you talking
about? I mean, they can order the chips from TSMC and design the GPUs inside China, right?
No, they can't buy it from TSMC. They can't get any chips from TSMC.
You got the same problem, you see.
TSMC relies on U.S. technology, like EUV.
And that's why whatever they make is sanctioned. They can't take contracts from China.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why China's so pissed about it. And to be honest, if I was China, I would be pissed too.
I would be too. Yeah, exactly.
I asked DeepSeek, and they said like old GPUs, third-party resellers. DeepSeek didn't even really have a good answer for how they got their GPUs.
If that were the case, you'd have to rely off of multiple failed companies, of which few do exist.
Oh, by the way, the guy we talked to in MySpace came.
Sure.
So we can discuss it with him as well.
Sure.
Hey, LDJ, how's it going?
Hey, what's up? I hear you guys talking about DeepSeek GPUs.
Yeah.
I think I heard something along the lines of like getting them, like you could basically have like a shell company in like Bangladesh or like India or Thailand or something, and then you order H800s or H100s through there, and then you ship them from there to China, and apparently some of them are getting to China that way.
I think at this point though they're not selling any of those to like anyone other than the big companies.
I mean, you really got to respect that, right? So not only did they have less money, not only was it a side project, but they had to like fucking cheat their way to their hardware, and they still got it done. Like, damn, dude.
Well, I think they said in their paper it's H800s, I think, right? Which is like I think Nvidia's allowed to sell those to China, but it's just like something like 2 or 3x less powerful than H100. But if you look at like the estimated amount that DeepSeek has is around 50K of those, which is somewhere around like 25K like H100 equivalents. But DeepSeek V3 only used like 2K of those to train, so they still haven't even used like the full amount of all their compute to train things.
How much do those things go for? A pop?
Like an H800, I'm not sure, but like H100 is probably selling for about like more expensive earlier, but maybe like around 20K, maybe even lower, like 15K at this point because of Blackwell, and then maybe H800 is like I don't know 10K.
That sounds like it's a lot of money. Didn't you say that they had 50,000 of them, and you said 2,000 of them?
Yeah, so like 50,000 times $10,000 a pop, that would be what? Here I'm just doing the math right now.
50 million.
50 million.
Yeah, which is about what they said, $50 million of a GPUs.
Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense.
$5 million to train.
Yeah, and then like when they say like the training cost, that's basically calculated as like the going rate per hour for like if you were to rent one of those GPUs, and then how much that total training time was.
Yeah, so I think you said that it cost 10 million-ish to train 4.0.
Yeah, like if you were to, that seems like very likely, or at the very least, like a text version of 4.0 if they were to make that. But maybe because the multimodality and other things like that, maybe it cost more like, maybe 15 mil or a little bit more. But I think it's very likely around that range for something like 4.0, yeah.
So how will American companies respond to this? Like, how will from like X to OpenAI to I don't know, Google, what did we learn? How do you think people are going to respond?
I mean, the biggest thing here is like not so much I think the cost, but more so that they were even able to like have something like O1 level even before, like they released that before XAI could release like an O1 competitor. They released that before like Meta could, before Google really could. So I think, I don't know, I think what we might see is maybe an attempt to try and kind of like make the talent density of these teams like even more, because like part of the reason of why DeepSeek was able to ship those like faster and better was maybe because they were able to just kind of like get that research like implemented into like a single run and like ship that out like much faster just from the size of their team and the selection of their talent.
That's cool. Has anyone looked at ByteDance, the owner of TikTok?
Yeah, they're making some pretty big
model
moves too. Yeah. I mean, even beyond, I think they had something else called, or I might be getting that mixed up with Tencent. I think it was either ByteDance or Tencent that had something called Hunwan too, and they had like a video model as well. And I mean, ByteDance and Tencent, they have basically GPT-4 level stuff too now.
So ByteDance would be making video models, but I thought Doubao was an LLM.
Yeah, I think wasn't Alibaba also doing something? Qwen?
I think Alibaba definitely has its own thing. I don't know what it does.
Yeah, I think it's called Qwen.
Yeah, Alibaba, I would say out of the like all the Chinese labs, it's probably the second like best behind DeepSeek, or maybe even like tied with DeepSeek, depending on how you look at it. Yeah, they even came out with a reasoning model before DeepSeek did called QWQ, but it wasn't like quite at O1 capabilities. It was more like O1 preview, so it's not getting as much hype as DeepSeek R1's model is.
This naming convention from OpenAI is gonna be the death of it. What the fuck type of bullshit is this? O1, O1 Pro, O1 Mini.
No, you know what's the funniest thing?
O1
When they were asked,
preview.
they were asked in a Ask Me Anything, what does the O in O1 stand for? And they said OpenAI.
Oh my god.
and then somebody else in that same Ask Me Anything, they asked the OpenAI staff, can you guys come up with better naming conventions? And like it was like Sam or somebody else responded with no.
I swear they're giving Microsoft a run for its money.
Why can't it be like a normal company and just make everything they launch be part of an acronym that's something like appropriate or sex related?
Yeah, Tesla.
Sex related.
Or just keep increasing the number, like RTX 3070, 3080, 4090, 5080, 5090.
That's what
So this is something I heard from one of my friends, right? And let's just say they know something about OpenAI. I mean, so they.
Hold on. You gotta protect your friend's life.
Okay, I'm not talking about the same person, I think.
oh my god.
Okay. Yeah, let's just say the how they show the public about the naming convention, like as if they are dumb. I don't think that's the case. So it seems like there could be some kind of IP conflict with some other company. So for example, they did not have O2 because there was some other company with the same name O2. That's why they skipped O2 and went with O3. Yeah. So I know there is a rhetoric about.
What's O2? Is that the fucking data company in the UK? I forgot.
Yeah, it's like a British telecom company.
Yeah, I think I remember when I was living in the UK, I had O2, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think in that case, like, the reason they skipped from O1 to O3, like, that's the reason, but, like, I think for much of their other stuff, I don't think they're constantly running into trademark things that, like, end up messing up their, like, naming convention. I think it's just, like, a lot of the other things are actually just a genuine bad naming.
You can name, like, you have so many different options, like, this is definitely not trademark cost. It's just bad branding and naming.
What do you guys think of the computer agent thing, or like the naming convention for that at least? Like they called it operator.
I haven't used it yet. Is it functional, or it just barely works because the operator runs into some login screen that it can't navigate, and then like you have to do so much hand holding that it makes.
Oh, I just meant like the naming. I just mean like cares about name operator. Well, because we were just talking about like naming conventions right now. So.
It's like a fine name, like whatever. But like, yeah, to me the more interesting thing is definitely like whether or not it works, right? Because this is the beginning of being able to get rid of employees, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely better than cloud computer use right now, like pretty much every way. Like anything cloud computer use does, it seems like this would do it like better and maybe even like cheaper. But I think like right now they have like this browser system that's inside of the ChatGPT interface, and to some extent this kind of might make it like harder to use in some situations, because let's say you wanted to already use like the logins you already have in your browser or already use things that you have on your desktop. But like on the other hand, it's just safer because instead of like interacting with all these other logins, like it has this dedicated browser that you can put your own like logins and autofills and all these things that you want it to have access to.
That's cool. I mean, I understand the point you're making, but it's, I don't know. I haven't used it at all, so it's just cool to hear you describe it, how this stuff could work or does.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, I think most people probably like if it was made available to every ChatGPT user today, I think the amount of people using it like a month from now, like actually for the sake of useful stuff and not just like to try it out, I think probably wouldn't be that many people using it like a month from now, but I think it will improve a lot over like the coming month, just like the O1 models and 03 are. Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of improvement over this year.
Do they have like enough talent left over? I'm not too familiar with AI talent, but it seems like a lot of the names that I know, and not saying that I know a name means that the name is someone who's smart, you can drop good AI code, but like, do they have enough talent to like keep going, or they're actually starting to be short of talent given all these people have left OpenAI?
In my opinion, the talent stuff has been pretty overblown. If you look at the actual names of people that are like the lead researchers like on like the actual projects like on GPT-4 credits and things like that, like it's been like a very small portion of those names like actually contributing to stuff that I've left. It's been like some like I mean Ilya was probably the single biggest one that left that's like a big name. But yeah, like a lot of the main people, like I think really pushing stuff, like a vast majority of them are still there.
Who runs product for them? Like, I guess Sam like doesn't code. Is he more of a deal maker, and they have someone else who kind of like decides how things should be from a high level?
I mean, they have like chief scientist Jacob Pachoki, and then they have like I think they have a new CTO now as well. They have like a chief product officer. But I mean, like Sam does know like a decent technical amount of things. Like he did actually. I'm pretty sure he like went to Stanford for computer science. He has like coding background in some sense. But yeah, he's like not like this cracked like AI researcher, but he probably knows enough to kind of like understand what kind of decisions should be made roughly high level.
All I know is that his social. I apologize if there's background noise. You guys can tell me if there is. I don't know if my phone or the app.
A little bit, but we can still hear you clearly.
All right. I apologize. I'm gonna stop talking after this. But all I know is that like Sam had a social network and it didn't work out, and so I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of lore behind that. Yeah, he had the social network that didn't work out. I think it was like when he was like 19 or something. And that was like the first batch of Y Combinator, which is like the startup accelerator. And then he actually ended up working his way up to like he ended up just being really good at kind of giving people business advice and mentoring people through things, and ended up as president of YC.
All right, one last thing. I think that he, just from like watching him operate and just like who he is as a person, he seems to be like a lot better with like people than he does to be at like designing products. That's just the vibe I get.
Okay. I mean, like I don't know the guy personally, so I can't really say.
He was apparently at least Paul Graham sees him as a very, very intelligent person. I mean, I sometimes read Paul Graham's essays, and he's had like essays where he's literally talked about how like age isn't that important because you've got like people like you've got people that are exceptional, like him. From like a very young age, I think he was talking about how his first company was like 17 years old. So clearly, clearly, Paul Grams has a lot of respect for him, which has got to mean something at least, I think.
I think it maybe also also mean something? The fact that when Sam got fired, it was something like 99% of the whole company that ended up like signing the petition that threatened to quit if Sam didn't get reinstated. Like, I don't think that's like something close to that has ever happened with like any other CEO of any company ever, right? Like over 90% of the entire company threatening to quit if you don't come back.
I think a part of that was also because, from people that you talked to, apparently there was a lot of pressure inside of the company for you to sign this petition.
Yeah, that's probably true as well. Like, once it gets past like something like 50 or 60% or more, then it's like, once a majority are doing it, then you kind of look like the odd one out if you don't sign it.
I think it's easy to kind of resist it when it's in the majority, but if it's like an overwhelming majority, people kind of give up.
Yeah.
Do you guys know what Mira Murati is up to? Probably ayahuasca, I don't know.
I think I heard something along the lines of she's starting a new company around like, I think something about like fine-tuning models or something. Here, let me see if there's any new information on it right now, actually. Oh, she actually hired, I think, somebody from OpenAI who had the title of like head of special projects. And then she hired that person apparently from OpenAI, or like he left to start with something else with her. That's an interesting title though, head of special projects.
The new way to become a billionaire is to join OpenAI and then leave and then start your own company.
Mm-hmm.
But why not start a new company in the first place? Because no one's gonna give you money.
Yeah.
You gotta have an impressive work history. It's not like otherwise the university degrees would work as effectively as they were marketed to work.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, if you work at OpenAI, you'll at least meet some smart people that you can coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of like talent, like leaving or joining places, I think like there's kind of this hyper focus on OpenAI because they were kind of like even if they're not all around like the clear number one right now, they have like this momentum of fame from being like the ChatGPT moment and GPT-4, etc. But when it comes to talent leaving, like Google just recently had like there's a tweet of people joining Anthropic, and it was like 4 or 5 different people from Google, like all joining Anthropic like in the same week, and they're like, oh hey, we just realized like we all used to work at Google together. It's nice to be like a nice reunion, and they like posted this picture on Twitter. It was so funny, and then like within like a week or two of that same picture, there's like 3 of like some pretty big people from DeepMind that left to join OpenAI.
How much does it cost for a new AI company to poach someone qualified from Google or OpenAI, both in terms of salary and stock, like roughly?
At least probably 500 grand at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like, it depends on the person, but I've heard of things like 10 mil plus. But yeah, like 500 grand is probably like for at least like more of the average talent. But I mean, when I say average talent, I mean like if you're in DeepMind in the first place, like the average of DeepMind is already highly exceptional, right?
Yeah.
DeepSeek is paying those bros in cigarettes. Just every time they bang out a new model, they're just throwing those back in cigarettes. And they just grind away. It's a bunch of Chinese guys chain smoking.
Oh my god.
No, but seriously, that's an interesting question, right? Like, what is the talent cost that in China? It's not 500.
I think I heard it is like
that much.
I mean, I don't think it's 500 grand, but it's like I think it's still a pretty significant amount for like China. Like, I think maybe even I wouldn't be surprised if it's over like 50K or 100K USD, or maybe even more. Because I mean, they're like basically a quant firm, like they're getting funded by like the CEO who runs this like
quant firm and like this giant hedge fund with billions of dollars.
I interviewed a guy. He wasn't like an AI researcher from a quant fund in China who I was going to hire, and he was like, I think if I recall correctly, he didn't need much more than like 30 or 40 grand. And it was like he had like a decent pedigree. So just one data point, but there you go.
Yeah, I mean, like in some circumstances it makes sense if like the person is literally somebody who already had a successful career. Maybe they already have like a good cushion of like investment or savings that they're on, and they're like they just kind of care about like the passion of working on some cool new thing and don't really care that much about a salary. Maybe, you know.
You get that Elon discount. Yo, I get to work for Elon. So if it's 500, whether it's 500K or $10 million, like what's the typical breakdown on like salary versus stock in that, or is it just like too hard to say because it depends on valuation and all that stuff?
Salary
on the 500K, I would.
Sorry, salary.
Yeah, go ahead if you want.
Rarely does the salary go above 250, 300K. So like, no matter how much somebody's making, I see 200, 300K salary.
Depends on the company, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would generally agree with that. Yeah.
Like
yeah,
Netflix,
I think like
Netflix, for example, gives you the option to like literally take your salary and whatever the fuck you want. You want all cash, you can take it all cash.
Yeah, what I've heard is something like 350K with 200K stock. Like that's what I've heard is like somewhat typical.
And always the same thing where it's like 4 years, 1 year cliff. I forget how to say it. But like,
depends on the company. Depends on the company.
Yeah, like vetting. Yeah, like vetting over time. Like investing over time.
Yeah,
you don't get it all like immediately out.
Exactly.
4 years is definitely the most common, but it's not that common.
Yeah. Amazon.
Yeah, I think with like these.
I know Amazon.
Yeah, sorry.
I know Amazon does like 5% upfront first year. So you get 5% of your stock first year, and then every other year it's kind of like it's significantly more after that.
Yeah, for like certain poaching deals, they might even do like some type of sign-on bonus, but in the form of like stock. So like your immediate like stock investment is like significantly more than maybe it would otherwise be if you weren't being poached.
Amazon's kind of falling apart, but I only get to see the non-software side of it for the most part. See the retail side. What does Rysana do, John?
The CLB is we do language models just like OpenAI and Anthropic, but our focus is on the fast and reliable first, reliable and structural sense. So if you've ever used like OpenAI structured templates, or you've like used a normal language model and tried to parse it using structured data or anything like that, basically do that. Our structure systems are about 1 million times faster, so we basically have no overhead for that, and then most are also anywhere from 10 to 50,000.
You're cutting out. You're cutting out pretty badly.
How many words do you need?
Every other word comes in.
Every other word comes in.
Well, take a look at my profile. I have a video that covers it pretty well, and
basically what we're doing with our brains here is we're doing the same thing that NVIDIA is doing with our video games and the frames that are being skipped. That's what's happening.
Yeah, deal with it. Yeah.
We can kind of understand what you're talking about. It's just very difficult to piece together.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So what
now
I'm
it's
thinking
working.
is,
Now everything's working well. And now you're back.
so it doesn't matter who wins the AI race, the consistent winner is Jensen Huang.
Yes, and TSMC. That's why we need to protect TSMC. Don't send the money to Ukraine. Send it to Taiwan.
Well, why not bring Taiwan to the US?
What do you mean? Make it a US state?
No, we we could dig out the land surrounding Taiwan and actually like transport it on like, you know, across 10 different aircraft carriers, bring it to next to Florida, and boom, done deal.
Exactly. I'm sure China would be cool with that.
100%. We need to call in the monkey god from. We need to call the monkey god in from Indian mythology. He's gonna lift the island up and bring it straight here. That's a real thing, by the way. Go look it up.
Do you mean God or wait? Do you mean Wukong? The Wukong guy?
I don't know. I forgot the name, but it's definitely not Wukong.
Siraj, where's your vote?
Siraj, do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm talking about? What's the name of that mythical thing?
It's called Hanuman, but I'm not a Hindu myself, so I don't have expertise in the subject.
Right. I just needed to know the name because you might have known.
Yeah, it is Hanuman. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to Hanuman fucking Taiwan. Just take the whole island and ship it to US. Put it right there next to put it into the Gulf of America. You know, it really does belong there. We just gotta make sure that the depth is right. Otherwise, the whole thing's gonna be underwater, and we'll have Atlantis V2. We don't want that. But yeah, sure.
It would be an epic battle. Like the monkey god from India shows up to move Taiwan, and then the monkey king from China is like, not so fast. And then you have some crazy monkey battle in Taiwan. That's pretty funny.
And then once we put it into the Gulf of America, if we make it just U.S. territory, then we don't even have to give all the people visas because the people on the island will already just technically be residents already.
Yeah, like Puerto Rico.
Yeah, exactly, like Puerto Rico, yeah.
So
they would be U.S. citizens. They would be U.S. citizens still.
I'm like a highly expert trained racist. And Siraj, what is your last name though? Isn't it his last name?
No, it's my dad's name actually.
Well,
go on.
No, yeah, I'm not very religious.
Well, is your dad though?
Yeah, him neither.
Oh, so you're atheist or does he believe in something?
Fellow racist.
I would say I would maybe agnostic. That would be more accurate. But atheist for, I would say, practical reasons, so I don't get into rabbit holes every day.
What about you?
Who is he?
Who?
Siraj, what about you, buddy? What's your thing?
Oh yeah, same. Agnostic, yeah.
Fair enough. LEJ, what about you? What do you believe in?
I'd say agnostic. Kind of used to. I think like a lot of people probably in here. I went through a more hardcore atheist phase when I was younger, and then kind of more agnostic now.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think everyone goes through that fucking. Well, not everyone, but yeah, most people go through
the atheist phase.
Yeah, a lot of people go through that.
Anyone who has a brain goes through like the atheist phase at least once. The trick is to come back from that and reconnect with what actually is logical, because if you don't come back from that, then you will deny the core functions of the universe and be a fucking retard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you stay in the atheist phase, you're usually retarded.
Precisely.
Always retarded. They're the worst.
I mean, like, seriously, look at the world around you. You want to tell me that this thing that works so methodically, like an actual system itself, just happens to be by random chance? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a god, or I don't know I don't know that shit, but I'd like at least, like maybe it's a simulation, maybe it's something, but at least there's some sort of thing, you know?
Like something have to create something. There's intent. The design of the universe is intelligent. You can tell. It's either that or we are super biased because we are intelligent, but, whatever.
It's possible I might just be retarded.
No, you said you're agnostic.
Nah,
you said you're
I did beat him at chess, and I am retarded myself, so.
I mean, what's interesting is like around like SF, Silicon Valley, there's kind of like a bit of a growing like Catholic mysticism vibe. I think John, you might know kind of what I mean, but yeah, like there's a kind of increasing mysticism, not necessarily in the bad way I'm saying, but just like interesting mysticism. That's great.
What is Catholic mysticism?
I guess just if you kind of, I'm gonna butcher this, but like the general vibes of like, I don't know if you're familiar with like Rosicrucianism or Gnosticism and like things relating to that, or like when it comes to things like the very original abstract interpretations of angels amongst the original kind of biblical and tangential texts of the time. Those sorts of things, like very much more abstract, like more like original true interpretations of things that are not like kind of imposing narratives of the churches at the time.
Are we about to see the beginning of a religious war between the the Catholic mystics and Y Combinator?
Or maybe I think a lot of the Y-Com people might already be maybe mystics.
If you're in a line of work like that, you have to be praying a lot.
Especially if you work at SpaceX and need to pray for the
Literally, yeah.
A lot of the like aerospace and defense people that I know are Christian. Almost all of them.
Yep.
B2B
Yeah,
stuff.
same.
That's pretty agnostic.
I think I've noticed a trend with like, and this is like pretty low sample size, but like infra people, like people that like even like high up in like, you know, maybe like a like head director of like infra for maybe like a big AI project or something. like at a previous company I worked for, this was the case. Like is like a very Christian guy at the head of infra, and then I think Greg Brockman at OpenAI, I think he's like Christian too, if I remember it. Yeah. And he's like, I think, head of infrastructure or like a president or something like that.
There's definitely a personality type that's attracted to religion, and then certain religions overlap with certain cultural types, cultural and like personality types. So I could definitely see that being true. Just hit a glass wall with a plate.
Yeah, maybe it has something to do with like the love and passion for systems and like systems and optimization problems and things like that, and kind of then that maybe causing you to reflect more about the universe and how that overall system is functioning, and kind of like going down this route. I'm not saying it's even necessarily bad, it's just like you know, just interesting pondering that it might implore you to do.
So if I were to be say into Jewish Kabbalah stuff, what would you think of me? Just hypothetical.
So first you're like, oh, so what are the topics that Paul Graham is wrong about that are controversial or sensitive? I was like, oh, nodded down the account. Would you like to start talking about Judaism? I'm not taking that one. I don't know what Kabbalah is. I know a little bit about Orthodox Judaism and regular like Reformed. I don't really know what the Kabbalah thing is, and I do know that some people rock that bracelet. But that's all I know. Someone else can talk about it.
I just read through a lot of it. I think it's the cool shit, or I don't know why. It's like there's a very specific element to it. It's like a lot of the mysticism that I normally read through. It's supposed to instill you with a kind of wisdom about how humans work. This stuff instills you with a kind of wisdom as to how the universe works in some way, like gigantic godlike forces. That's why I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I think the Kabbalistic stuff is kind of tangential and similar in a lot of ways to like the, I guess you can call it neo-Catholic mysticism stuff that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, even if you just go back to like, it's kind of like a meme in tech and AI lately of like people talking about Neon Genesis Evangelion a lot. And if anybody has seen that or like is familiar with that while also being familiar with like Jewish mysticism, then like you'll see like Kabbalistic like visuals and Sephiroth and Elohim and like a lot of these Jewish terms and things in Judaism are commonly referenced in that anime.
What's like the best thing to read? Like ideally a book, or I don't know. What's the best way to learn about Jewish Kabbalah?
I think, isn't there something like literally like I feel like there's like maybe like one or two main actual like texts like literally called like Kabbalah or something similar. I mean, maybe Adrian, you might you might know more.
I kind of just am scatterbrained about it. I read a lot of studies. So there's like one guy who I know who has access to university libraries, so it's not even entirely public. So
Okay, I'm looking at is Kabbalah.
There might be some good books on it.
Yeah, it seems like there's a Wikipedia for primary texts of Kabbalah, and then those are like at least like the known ones that are preserved by current archival records. It seems like you could just kind of read some of those that have been translated to English, or just ask Claude or ChatGPT to like summarize some of those original texts.
There's a site that's called the Center for it. There's a bunch of videos on it and shit. Pretty cool. Here, I can send it to you. Awesome. Anybody else wanted to?
I mean, I'm sure I could just Google it or whatever, right?
Yeah, there you go. There's a. It's like literally a website. It's called Kabbalah.com.
Adrian, are you agnostic?
Me? I'm not sure if agnosticism necessarily reflects my view of the world. It might. I think by execution, yes. Yes.
You realize that we're all in a church, right? Like, we're all in the cult of Adrian, and every day we listen to his sermons, and sometimes we confess things to Adrian, and we do our 15 push-ups. Like, you guys realize that?
That is true, yeah. We do have a cult ritual. It's I make everybody eat healthy and do push-ups. I'm actually going to do 90 after this phase. Actually, after I'm finished eating this thing.
Just having my steak, just about to eat it. You could like hear the heart attack happen on his faces, like that post 90 push up.
Yeah.
Speaking of religion and ideologies, what do you guys think of Don't Die? I feel like most of us probably agree with the ideology.
His olive oil.
Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, he's about to tell you about the olive oil mafia.
Look, I'm not going to talk about the olive oil mafia because I don't want to hit the bottom of the East River. But he's vegan, and I don't know. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think, look, here's the thing, the don't die thing, I understand that. I believe also in optimizing human health to the point that you can live as long as possible. I don't want to die personally. I don't know what comes after. Maybe it's that I fear what comes after, but realistically, it is more so about the fact that this world is extremely entertaining and I don't want to leave it behind. So I kind of just want to keep going and keep going as efficiently as I can and as effectively as I can. Like if I'm sitting there as like a fucking vegetable and I really can't be doing much of anything with my life, then that's kind of not how you want to live. So purely from the perspective of being fit and being able to move around at least, yeah, that's something that I'd want. How he's going about it, I think is completely incorrect, however. Like, he needs to do things to his body in order to sustain a very counterintuitive diet that is just not realistic and not even necessary, because he's going off of Sinclair's work, which is fundamentally incorrect on multiple levels.
Also, it's like purely rich people food, by the way.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like maybe the best argument for it though is along the lines of like, you know, maybe not going as hardcore and like in the specific direction that Brian Johnson is, but the overall sentiment of Don't Die, I feel like even if you do enjoy, let's say, eating fast food and doing this and that, and like if you ask such a person, hey, would you rather eat fast food and this and that than rather than be dead? And they most definitely like say yes. And like if you want to actually maximize the amount of time that you can eat fast food and do this and that, then like you should just try to at least survive to like, you know, a longevity escape velocity, assuming that you at least believe that could happen, and like at least make it to there, and then you could do whatever you want. Then you could spend hundreds or thousands of years eating fast food, and like you don't have to worry about dying. You know, just try to make
but I don't
this
think
would do
he's wrong about it in the right way.
Exactly.
He's talking about fucking vegan and measuring nighttime erection time.
Bro, imagine you're like the
Well, okay, to be fair to the
taking
vegan,
fucking blood from his son.
Dude, imagine that your father fucking like doxes your nighttime erection data on the fucking internet in front of millions of people. What the fuck? I'm sorry, can we discuss that?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. To be fair on the vegan point, real quick, he has like emphasized a lot that he doesn't like encourage people to necessarily be vegan and stuff, and he just
but he
like in a lot of
brings
his
in
videos.
bullshit like okay, we have pretty clear evidence at this point that fucking seed oils are very bad for you. And he brings up he wrote like a whole thing that was completely incorrect about how seed oils are actually good for you.
So I
really? I haven't
I can talk about that a little bit because I think he wrote that right after I said that I was gonna test his olive oil. So like I was like, so I said, hey, I'll test 3 olive oils because I was worried that some of the olive oils I was eating was adulterated with seed oils, and then a bunch of people, it wasn't even on my radar. Like I don't care. A bunch of people were like, oh, test Brian Johnson's, and then like he got tagged over and over again, and then within a couple of days he wrote this like long thing about how seed oils aren't that bad. But then I did test his olive oil, and there's a post on my profile that you can read, and it is within the range of what the International Olive Oil Trade Organization considers to be extra virgin olive oil. So just wanted to put that out there.
Based.
Does it have any seed oils or no?
I wasn't actually able to figure it out. There's an extremely wide range of acceptable values for things like oleic acid, linoleic acid, and these things called sterols. And I mean, I could send you the data. So what happened is I didn't want to test it in Italy because I was worried that an Italian lab would not give me an honest result because I heard rumors that I don't know are true or not about like basically the Italian mafia running like a fake olive oil scam. And so one of the kind of like the reasons for this assertion is like, for example, this year, like olives had I heard like a pretty bad harvest globally, but you won't necessarily see like a decline in olive oil supplies and stuff like that. And so a lot of people think that olive oil is adulterated with seed oils, whatever. So I was like, okay, I won't test it in Italy. And so then I decided to test it in Germany because I couldn't really find any other lab outside of Italy that was willing to test olive oil. I tested the olive oil. I spent a lot of money, like $5,000 actually, to test like 4 or 5 different olive oils. It goes to Germany. They're like, we're an accredited lab. We'll do it. It's not like a random lab. It's like a big European company that you have almost heard of. Almost definitely if you know testing. And then they delay the results, and then they give us the results, and be like, hey, we subcontracted it to a non-accredited lab. We promised to tell you whether or not there were seed oils in the olive oil, but we're not going to do that. And so it just became really, really shady. And I think if I were to do it again, I would like either test it myself on my own equipment, or I'd test it like in some place like China, even though they said they couldn't do it accredited testing. And then something that was very important is I wouldn't test it with the packaging. I made the mistake of sending like big brands to a lab, and I think that might have been frowned upon.
So
I'll put the post in the conversation so you can like see some of the data.
I read that yesterday and I was like, wow, that's something I didn't necessarily anticipate. Although one thing I find is very interesting. So I used to live for multiple years in Morocco, and we actually had our own olive oil made from our own olives there at the time. Whatever this European olive oil is, I don't know what's wrong with it, but it tastes fucking rancid. This stuff, you could actually almost drink if you wanted to. It was smooth, it was extremely fragrant, like fragrant to the point that if you were to put this on your skin, it would smell like perfume. And it tasted amazing. It was almost weird to put it into the food because of how well it smelled. It's like as if I took perfume and put it in the food. That's how it smelled. It was very intense. And it was very, very smooth. I remember that. I had that in my mind, and then when we went back to Europe, I had a little bit of bread, and I put some olive oil on it. I tried to eat it. It was fucking disgusting because even though the oil, which is supposed to be extra virgin olive oil, tastes rancid, why does it do that? It's not supposed to be this way. So, I guess, who knows? Personally, I stay away from it entirely.
Yeah, I just thought of commenting on the food stuff. Like, I mean, should we be miserable eating tablets every day if we go by what Brian Johnson is saying? and maybe we live for maybe 100, 120 years.
No, we won't, because we're eating fucking vegan.
Yeah. So again, like, just to clear it up, the idea of don't die, I think that's great. I think that's perfect. It's just the way of how to get there. This is what we disagree with, right? Because that's not the way to get there. You look at some of the most nutrient-dense foods that are on the planet, and he's avoiding exactly those things. So look at like a ruminant, for instance. So a lot of the stuff that a human would need, the human can't actually process directly from a plant. So you'll need a medium, and that medium is in fact something like a cow or a goat or various other forms of animals, which are so happen to be ruminants, right? Because they have to actually take that grass, turn it into meat, and then you take that meat on because you're literally a biomechanical assimilation engine. So that's why I also eat a shit ton of meat, that I don't need to eat more than like once a day. I would also eat a few carbohydrates as well, and a shit ton of butter and some eggs. But ever since I did that, my energy is like all the way up. I have no more problems. I don't have weird acid reflux when I'm in bed. I don't have like the need to sleep as much, and genuinely, I feel as though my cognitive function has massively improved also.
You will actually die on the vegan diet if you do not take supplements. Like,
exactly.
There is no plants that you can get vitamin B12 from.
And keep in mind that this is something where we have actually bred plants to be this effective. So even at their most effective, plants are still gonna kill you if you don't take supplements. Think about humans in the past. They clearly did not live on this shit.
Nope. And you can eat some plants. I do think that eating some plants is perfectly fine. Like, have a vertical diet where it's like 80% protein. You can eat whatever else you want on top of that. You can even eat the fast food. It doesn't do much damage to you. Except for McDonald's, I would recommend staying away from that. For some reason, when I ate like a Big Mac the last time, I felt as though I had a weird immune response. Very strange stuff. I'm not sure if anybody else has that, if they'd ever tried that after like a long period of taking in a high protein diet. There's something in there which really fucks with me.
I'll say that too, yeah. That's true. Burger King doesn't seem as bad. I haven't had either in years, but still, yeah.
Yeah. There's some local places that are kind of good. I know they're frying their shit in seed oils, but realistically, if you only have it's the sub 1% of what you can eat, so it's fine. Like, you can splurge a little bit, you can eat the sweet stuff, it's fine. If you have a balanced diet like that, then you can do practically almost whatever. You can have the non-diet Coke, who cares? Doesn't matter. But you have to actually get to the point where your body is actually in top shape and top health, and then you can kind of manage that, because otherwise everything is going to fall apart.
You know, apparently McDonald's actually used to fry their French fries in beef tallow.
Yep.
And then there's like apparently where when McDonald's was coming to India, then like there's like this big like protest, and no offense to Roger, when McDonald's came to India, there was some big protests around like them using beef tallow to fry
No, that's not what happened. That's not what happened.
Yeah, okay, do I have the story wrong? Okay, somebody fact.
So basically, the story was there was this guy that had a heart attack. He was a rich guy, millionaire, and had a heart attack, and he believed the propaganda about it being basically fat. So he went around the country basically trying to force restaurants to switch from fucking animal fats to seed oils because he believed those animal fats were healthier. That's basically the story.
Yeah, I recall that being the main story thing. Yeah, what I was talking about is I think something that preceded that like made McDonald's more likely to make the switch.
Maybe, but
unlikely, because that happened in the 80s, and I doubt that there were many McDonald's restaurants in India before the 80s.
But either way, they made the switch after that. After that guy.
Okay. Yeah.
After that guy. So.
Did you guys hear that like second telling of that Morgan Spurlock Super Size Me documentary, where it turns out that whole thing was fake and he was actually just like a raging alcoholic?
I think it was kind of like confirmed that it was fake, like even way before then. I mean, maybe it just wasn't widely known, but yeah, like there's journalists that tried to get like Morgan Spurlock allegedly had written notes down of like exactly his like caloric intake of each day and exactly what he ate, and then when other journalists tried to like ask him for those records of like all those notes he wrote down, Like he would never give it to anybody.
Wow. Me when I lie.
But like also just the whole like in the documentary itself, like the methodology is just kind of like somewhat obviously flawed when you look at the fact that he like literally forced himself, like even if he wasn't hungry, he forced himself to have like at least this amount of stuff for each breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and like made sure to supersize me for each thing. And then he framed it in this way as if like the average American is gonna do exactly what he was doing in that documentary. It's like, yeah, like obviously if you eat just 2-3 times more calories than you're supposed to of literally anything, like you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, I'm seeing Elliot's post here. What the fuck? Why is there like a really rusted looking man in the background? Nice cast art, but what the fuck is...
Let me see.
Joseph Everett did a very good takedown of the bullshit that Brian Johnson was talking about. And then he got this very, very retarded ass community note, whose source was literally the r/vegan subreddit. And then Brian Johnson responded with, whether you like it or not, most of our knowledge on health is based off of surveys. And I'm like, yeah, then probably that's the fucking reason why we live such an unhealthy life now. This is the unhealthiest people I've ever been.
Alright, I'll say it. I've met Brian Johnson briefly, just briefly, and in a very short interaction. It was not a positive interaction, but I may have just been misinterpreting something, whatever. But the dude has scars behind his ears. I could be wrong about this, and it could have been me being far away, but he has scars behind his ears. Correct me if I'm wrong, go find a picture behind the ears, but that plus veganism, that's all you need to know in my book.
Well, yeah, I'm confused. Does like scar behind the ear signify like a specific thing, or
you get them from a facelift.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that context. All right.
I was starting to think that he was about to make a lizard people joke. Jesus Christ.
You never know with me.
I'll say too. I've spoken to Brian Johnson on a couple occasions, like in spaces and stuff, and and I have some mutual friends with him. But he seems like a pretty cool guy, to me. But like, I don't know, like yeah, like I don't agree with the veganism thing, but the main things he tries to push is really like 90% of the stuff he says, don't die, get good sleep, like, and mostly basic stuff like that, which just most people don't take seriously enough, but they should.
Yeah, I think sorry for interrupting you, but I totally agree. I think probably on balance it's really great that he's bringing attention to health, and how you can have better habits. But as others said, it would just be nice if some of his scientific oriented recommendations were better. You know, that's it.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So, Alda, you mentioned that Brian Johnson is using a study from one of the professors that go to Stanford or something?
I think somebody mentioned something about Sinclair.
David Sinclair, he doesn't go to Stanford, he's a Harvard professor.
I think it was maybe Adrian that said something about Brian Johnson and Sinclair.
Yeah, he was using his science.
He's using Brian Johnson is using David Sinclair's methodologies.
He follows me. I want to follow him back, but I don't know how to feel about that. It's like...
Wait, who? David Sinclair or Brian Johnson?
Yeah, actually, he did that. I was like, this guy's the antithesis of me. Do I like? How do I deal with the antimatter? You know. By the way, just for context,
would you really call him the antithesis?
Wait, can we go?
I'm just kind of surprised that you said that you're the antithesis of him, or vice versa.
Yeah, when it comes to like the health aspects in terms of how to get to a certain destination, that would be it. Because I have a guy. This guy would eat just plants, right? I would prefer to eat only meats. I actually don't like to eat anything else, really. That's the stuff that really I enjoy eating the most. Everything else is just kind of meh by comparison. If I could only eat meat, like that'd be the only thing that I have to eat for all of eternity, I would be totally fine with that.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Peterson's daughter does the same thing, right?
Even Peterson himself did that for quite a while.
I think Jordan Peterson. Yeah, exactly. I think he does it himself too. Yeah. I tried it out myself. Like I literally went something like 4 or 5 weeks, like only steaks. I think I maybe had like some beef liver supplements too. So like even though it wasn't like technically only steak, it was like still like cow. And yeah, like I didn't end up feeling bad or worse or anything, but I also didn't end up having like an amazing like.
That makes sense. That makes sense though, because it takes 2 months at least for your gut microbiome to adjust. Your gut. So do you only get the benefits of carnivore once your gut microbiome adjusts? Until then,
I did notice.
Until then, you don't really notice anything. Nothing's gonna happen. If anything, you actually could feel worse, right?
Yeah.
Depending on how fucked up your gut microbiome is.
Yeah, well, I did notice that. I mean, my energy was definitely way more consistent. Like, and like the motivation too. Like, even though my motivation wasn't necessarily like insanely high, but it was like normally, you know, after I eat something, like especially with carbs or something, it would be like my motivation to get things done. Like after that point would significantly reduce, or like my just overall energy levels would reduce. But like mainly keeping like proteins and meat diet seemed to make things much more consistent.
Also, for me, I don't really do carnivore. I just eat other, like I said, I eat other stuff with it as well. Because I like to just remain balanced and be kind of adaptive as well. Because if, let's say, for instance, I travel and I just need to eat because otherwise my body's going to feel like shit. I want to eat something, but not eat too much at the same time. So I have to be able to basically take on a food that is not necessarily consistent with my diet, but definitely is part of it already. So that's kind of why I'm doing a more balanced approach. And I feel really good about it too. And to an extent, I think you need a few carbohydrates as well, because otherwise you just need to eat like a shit ton of meat, of course, right? But you need the carbohydrates somehow as well. I kind of feel like that works out because it's what the brain consumes, like in terms of energy. So yeah.
Adrian, I have a feeling.
I mean,
I think we probably have to invite Brian Johnson to the space and then have a live debate with him.
I mean, actually, that wouldn't be bad, yeah.
Because he says he's all about numbers and science, and then he's ready to debate anyone, right?
I know 2 people that would be amazing to bring on.
I think the conversation honestly just might go in a direction though where he ends up being like, yes, I agree that, you know, this might not be the most optimal thing for everyone, but I try to make it clear already in my videos that this is just what I choose to do, and I implore people to just choose what they think is best for health. I feel like it might just come down to like a conclusion like that.
That would make sense because you can't really argue your way out of this. Like what he's doing is possible, but only in the way that he's doing it. However, there's a better way to do the same. Like you want a specific outcome. You can go about it in the most complex way possible, which is unnecessary, which is what he's doing, or you can go about it in the very simple way, which is what we are doing. The outcome is going to be roughly the same. Just one costs more than the other, and probably puts your body through a little bit more torture. Like, I'm a simple person. I want to eat simple stuff, go to bed, stay up late if I need to. I don't want to like fuck around with any of that shit.
I think the problem with Brian Johnson's stuff is, not Brian Johnson, David Sinclair's stuff is, a lot of his work is based off of fucking mTOR, and he has this belief that constant mTOR activation is basically going to lead you to die sooner. A lot of his theories and a lot of his work is based off this. But the problem is, this is an underlying assumption to which there's no strong evidence for. His theory is that a constant mTOR activation is gonna, lead to you dying sooner. But yeah, he hasn't provided any good evidence. I have not seen any good evidence for this. This is just something he's assumed, and then everything he does is based off that.
Do you guys believe in just the general concept of an eventual longevity escape velocity? And like for those unfamiliar, that just basically means eventually we would reach a point at which medical science is advancing and accelerating at a rate at which the amount of lifespan extension you get per year is more than the time of a year passing. So like for each year that you continue living, your lifespan, your expected lifespan actually increases by more than a year.
I think that's possible. The only problem is at some point you'll reach this issue where you'll have to replace a lot of things in your body, and potentially also with machinery. There's no telling what that's going to do exactly, because there are parts of our body that are somehow connected biologically, that if we somehow disrupt that, there could be problems. So perhaps you'd have to go all the way to the brain part and take your brain and put it into a robot. And when you do that, the only thing that you then have to do is make sure that you can somehow renew the brain matter, as in just like exchange stuff that's dying off, or stuff that's being copied improperly, like just from a cell perspective. And at that point, you're just ending up with the ship of Theseus problem, where it's like, are you sure this is still you?
Yeah, I don't think it's possible. I think at some point your brain's just gonna start rotting.
I think I agree with Adrian where it's like a ship of Theseus problem, but I think much more people are okay and consider it less of a ship of Theseus problem if it happens gradually enough. Like for example, imagine maybe a few years from now, didn't Brian Johnson already, for example, get his blood plasma replaced with this other fluid that he believes is superior, right? And gradually over time, we replace certain molecular structures in our body with other molecular structures that are superior, and eventually that maybe ends up with something like actually even changing the cell walls of our brain cells themselves into a superior molecular structure, and iteratively changing these different components of ourselves over time, and eventually every molecular structure in every cell of your body is different than it was 10 years ago, but there's no single point where it's all of a sudden different.
It would make sense, but the problem still is there's something about the brain and the way that it works, specifically the neurons, that makes it so superior that that people are trying to actively integrate it into the physical technology that we have. So as to help thinking.
Yeah.
Wait, Adrian.
I guess go ahead, Ada.
Yeah, Adrian.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I swear, if I'm getting new. Wait, what? What's going on?
Is this new?
What is new?
Look at what I just sent you.
You mean the video tab?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been around for quite a while. Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's just notice a new function of X. Yeah, X has a video tab now. You click that and all you can do is scroll videos. It's like TikTok minus the fancy algorithm that makes it actually good. It's the first step.
See, this is what I mean. Even fucking Elon was like, this place's algorithm sucks.
It was funny when he said that. He said it multiple times. Say, can I talk to the manager? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think we should probably give some slack to the X team because they just launched the feature and TikTok has been perfecting the algorithm for
No, I'm talking about the algorithm of X in general. It's worse than every other platform. It's worse than YouTube. It's worse than a fucking TikTok. The content here is generally better. There's better people here, but the algorithm itself is shit.
I don't know if from my personal perspective, the way I guess what you're trying to say is the reach-based aspects of the algorithm, as in what makes it to another person's feed, to actually grow via making posts on X, that's something that is very difficult to do, not impossible. That is
I mean just the general algorithm.
right?
I don't know. I feel like the algorithm's actually pretty good.
Not for you as a person. No, it's good at categorizing you into like a specific group of people, right?
Yeah.
It's good at categorizing you into a specific group of people, but you see what people in your group of people see, right? It's generalizing your content into the contents of people, into like the groups of people that you're into, and then you see what the people in that group see. It's basing it off groups. It's not basing it off of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I'm perfectly fine with, by the way, because I choose my groups very specifically.
Yeah, but that leads you to seeing some bullshit that you would never see on other platforms, right? Like, I would never fucking see, I don't know, some girl shaking ass on TikTok, right?
I don't see that here either. I'm not sure what exactly you're watching, but yeah.
If it gets, fuck off. Hey, listen, if it gets 500,000 views, not 500,000 views, 500,000 likes or more, it always fucking shows up. I don't give a fuck about celebrity bullshit. I don't give a fuck about fucking girls shaking ass. I don't care about
Dude, I
any
don't
of that.
see any of the celebrity content. I see absolutely none of that. I'm not sure how exactly you interact with the platform, but I see literally zero of that.
Okay, then in that case, you're the exception, I think. Because I think everyone I've talked to, they will see shit like that if it has enough, if it's gotten enough likes. Once it reaches 500,000 likes or whatever, it shows up on everyone's platform.
Okay, so I have some personal experience of seeing celebrity content just today. Chris Evans, he launched his own Captain America coin, which is basically a scam. But I just posted that. Yeah, I just thought of saying I did see celebrity.
Actually, like,
so that's
like Chris Evans himself literally posted a.
Yeah, I don't think that was actually Chris Evans' account. I think that was like a hack of some kind. We'll have to see. But there's a thing that's going on. I have no idea what the fuck's happening. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, just like John McAfee came back from the dead to start a coin. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. And then the girl comes out and says, "Yes, I'm doing it to protect his legacy." I'm like, "Oh yeah, very nice." Here's how we're gonna protect John McAfee's legacy by launching a shit token on fucking Solana and dumping it on people. Fuck no. I guess she was successful in her assassination because motherfucker definitely assassinated his character there. Fuck me. Strong opinions on it.
Brian Johnson's life is crazy.
I will say he has a lot of he may have a lot of fun with what he's doing. I mean, he is turning himself into a science experiment. So.
Not Brian Johnson. Sorry, John McAfee's. I mean.
Oh, that guy? Oh yeah, that guy's life is not just interesting, it's fucking insane.
Supposedly killed his father, killed his own father, fucking launched the malware, took over parts of government, didn't pay his taxes and fucked off to some island.
Lived on a boat and like lived the pirate life for a while, I guess.
Yeah.
Married the prostitute sent to kill him.
Yeah, a prostitute was hired to fucking kill him, and then he ended up marrying her.
Yeah. Anyways, LJ, what did you want to say previously? Like a few subjects back, like 2 or 3 subjects back, you wanted to say something, but then you were like we were overruled by the algorithm discussion, if you happen to remember what you wanted to say.
Might have been what we're talking about. Okay, it's definitely after the Kabbalah discussion.
Way after. Oh, hey, you may know this guy, Metaphor. He's real cool.
I have about 10 minutes. I need to say hello. It's been a while.
Oh, I think
You missed our AI
I remember.
discussion. You missed our AI discussion.
He's a crazy person.
But what I was gonna mention is, what are your guys' thoughts on longevity, escape velocity, and
right? That's what we were talking about, right?
Oh yeah, and then we were talking about how like at chip of Theseus, molecules changing over time.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the most likely direction it would end up going, and like even like slowly changing the molecular structure that make up the brain cells themselves, like the cell wall, like even your cells themselves are made up of many different molecules.
I think at some point it would be possible and even necessary to physically replace parts of the neurons in the brain before you'd even consider replacing the actual like stuff that it's made out of, just to consider replacing the things themselves, like parts in a machine. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily possible, but if it was, that's what you may end up doing. Or you will even need to somehow change the brain itself to a certain extent so as to like somehow come up with a way to store all the additional information, or at least have that information be stored elsewhere, to have that somehow be accessed by the same process that accesses information in the brain. So like, because that's going to be the next problem, data overload.
Yeah, I was actually thinking in terms of, because you mentioned
of Government Inefficiency posted today.
Yeah, they saved 420 billion in contracts and DEI contracts in unoccupied buildings, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that was the first 80 hours, I believe. Yeah.
It's a good start. If you break it down.
By the way, now that Meta's here, I want to ask you about DeepSeek.
Yeah, we could hear you, John. Yeah.
Meta, what's up, dude? Can you, what are your thoughts on DeepSeek? It's a very interesting thing. Since you're only here for like 10 minutes, but like, yeah, what do you think about it?
I think it's, do you remember when Bing had a really amazing search engine for a little while, and then Google started like making up articles of made up words, and then demonstrated that they were just like observing people going to the website, and then what link they went to later, and then they took them down, and it was very obvious they were just copying all their data. Do you remember that time in history?
Not really, no. Not me personally.
Dang, there was a Jon Stewart Daily Show episode on this. I can't recall when. It was a while back, maybe a decade ago. But anyway, I kind of described what they did. Pretty sure the same thing happened here. I think this is more of a reflection of a lack of great tackles on the OpenAI servers than it is a major advance. Also, one of the co-founders of Scale AI has kind of said he's pretty sure they have like 5,000 H100s in China already, and use those for this.
Yeah. We were talking about like how exactly they might have gotten all of those.
In the Middle East, probably.
Yeah, apparently it's more like 25,000 H100s worth of compute, apparently, that DeepSeek does.
Yeah, H100 equivalent is one thing, but if you have the actual H100s, then you can just literally run Llama. Like, you don't really need to do anything. This may be...
Yeah, when I say, like... Sorry, I was going to say it's 50K H800s, and then that's like roughly 25,000 H100 equivalents.
Yeah, but I think what the CEO is saying that they actually have 5,000. not equivalents, but actual.
Oh, okay. All right.
So like, I think this is more a commentary on how you can't really limit these things. And it's kind of, I think we had this conversation a long time ago, right? Like, do you want to have a closed model or open model? And I was just arguing that as soon as there's an open model, they're all open models, right? Like, it's not going to be very long until everything becomes open. The cat's out of the bag. You're going to put the cat back. At this point, it's just a race to hoping that somebody makes a good AI before inevitably somebody makes a bad one.
Yeah, I think Meta is like a good force here too, because I mean, DeepSeek, when it comes to scaling up, like eventually you kind of have to scale up, right? Like even if, you know, DeepSeek v3 is open as source now, if they don't scale up that architecture and that training recipe by 10x, 100x, another organization will, because, you know, other organizations already have access to that sauce now.
I think what I found strange is just how good it is comparatively. It's like on the level of I wouldn't say necessarily on the level of Claude, but it feels about the same.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in other languages, which Llama fails at. So it feels like a more complete model in every sense, because it can do math, it can do other languages, it can do reasoning, it can do whatever you're thinking of.
Yeah, I agree. I think the thing you have to ask yourself, though, is do you think DeepSeek did something different at an architectural level, or do you think they just spent more money on it?
I think
well, they published a paper, like we could see. Yeah.
but something that they did that was different was instead of having like a human hold its hand, they just made the AI go through a bunch of different possibilities itself, and basically come to see what type of reasoning got it to the best result by itself without any of the handholding.
So the key thing here is DeepSeek used MOE, right? So Gemini 1.5 was the first public model to start talking about MOE. MOE's been around since 2018. So it's beginning these things have been around a long time. You were just realizing what you can apply where now. MOE is kind of a cheat code. The way I would describe it is like the bigger lesson is the guiding principle for everything, right? Like, don't tell the model what to do. The model's smartest. The model knows better than you. So what you do with MOE is you just say, let's say we're going to instantiate a frontal cortex, and then we're going to instantiate a whole bunch of other cortexes, and we're going to have the frontal cortex decide which cortex the route belongs to. Traditionally, you would say, okay, this model's going to be good at science, that model's going to be good at math, this one's going to be good at humor, and you would route those yourself. What this thing does is it just says, you figure out what they should be. I'm not going to say what the topic should be, you just figure out what they should be based on the user query profile and all that kind of stuff. This is really hard to train a model unless you have like access to some heavy query volume. So I would be surprised if like the paper is accurate, like maybe they got access to Baidu's volume, or they got access to what people are searching somewhere else, but they have to have gotten access to something to do MOE, right? Like the paper talks about what they did, but it doesn't talk about how they got some of the data.
Well, they do have, like for Meta has a paper for a method called BTX and some other MOE research where they talk about some of these load balancing things like you're talking about, of like how to have the model properly balance, like which expert sections of the model are actually like being active like an equal amount ideally. And it seems like something that works relatively well is literally just having that load balancing be based on pre-training data. And so you literally just have it go through pre-training with like, okay, like have it optimized during pre-training to try and have each expert equally activated roughly, like roughly the same frequency as the other ones. And then you have this go through pre-training, then roughly that also translates to them roughly activating at a similar frequency after pre-training as well.
Yeah, I don't know that you want to do an equal balance for what it's worth. I think you just want to have high quality results, no matter what the balance is. So you might have like a portion of the brain that's really, really good at biology questions, even if they're only like 2% of your traffic. But by partitioning that logic out from the rest of the brain, it performs better. As an example, partitioning away creativity from factuality often be a very good thing, because if you're asking for something factual, you don't want a creative answer because that'll cause hallucination. And if you're asking for like a poem, you don't necessarily want factual answers because that limits creativity and the actual thing you're seeking.
Yeah, I mean, like, theoretically, I agree to an extent, but it seems like in the literature, like when they do try to do methods of like a very explicit domain specification like that, like you actually end up maybe being able to get similar, better results by actually having it more distributed and evenly, and like basically activating multiple different nodes of like very abstractly defined things by the training itself rather than defined by human.
I agree. I think it does perform better depending on which benchmarks you're using. But the irony is at that point, why have MOE at all?
Well, because it gives you extra training efficiency. Like for the same amount of loss, you end up needing way less training compute to reach that same average loss.
Exactly, yeah. Then you're only doing it to load balance across chips. That's the only reason. And then the question is, does DeepSeek basically just use MOE to load balance across chips? Is that basically the innovation here?
I mean, that seems like the main, well, not even necessarily across chips, like even if you do it across like, well, they have to do it on more than one chip, of course, because of the VRAM amount that it's using up. But even if you had it like, let's say in one chip, the actual flops required per forward pass ends up much less because you're only activating those active parameters of the model. Like let's say it's like for DeepSeek, I think it's something like 30B out of the full 680 dB. And then so you only actually end up spending flops like during training and inference for just those 30B parameters for every token.
Yeah, I mean, naturally each chip limits you to like maybe at most 120 dB, right? Like you're looking at 60 to 100. Now looking at So I think it was driven by hardware limitations. So if I was to summarize what the paper has done, is it's shown that once you look at MOE, which is again why these regulations are kind of silly, once you look at something like MOE, you realize, oh, you can actually do routing. So you can do what Amazon did back in the day and have a lot of really shitty small computers and parallel process across all of them and serve huge websites and traffic, right? Or you can have one supercomputer and you can serve all one. Turns out having lots of small ones is better because when something breaks, it's isolated, it's easier to replace. You can do a lot of like fancy things and you can serve more queries because they're going to different machines all the time. You can repurpose things, you can scale things up and down depending on which cortex is popular. So like there's a lot of lessons here, but I think really what DeepSeek shows is the regulatory body is really strong.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing MOE as well, like, ideally, any lab at any point, like, would just try to have very sparse MOE architectures whenever they can, but it's not exactly like it can be something very finicky that, like, you kind of sometimes need the right talent to really have, like, a stable large training run right with MOE.
No, you need a lot of data. You need a lot of data. And so, like, the most frustrating thing about these papers lately, I get it. It was what it is. For people who have been in the academic space before recent times, nobody includes how they actually did anything anymore. It's just like, it's just a paper for other purposes.
Yeah, I mean, like for DeepSeek v3, they didn't give like the full details yet, but they did implement some new things for the MOE techniques like auxiliary loss-free load balancing and like some other methods that they actually incorporate into MOE to like make it much more stable and have it run more efficiently, like during the actual like training process and also inference. And they detail some of the algorithms they use in that process in the paper.
I'm going to make a prediction. DeepSeek v4 is going to discover RAID is a very effective way to like, do fault tolerance across different models and servers. Like we're just reapplying things we've already learned in the past. Sorry, not to be too dismissive. I'm just trying to paint a picture here.
Yeah, there's some cool things as well in the DeepSeek v3 paper actually with like, I mean, they don't give like a huge jump, but just kind of cool little things that give a little bit of a boost, like multi-token prediction, which I'm surprised more people aren't talking about this. But like literally at training, instead of just doing single token prediction, they literally do like for a single forward pass, you'll predict multiple tokens at a time. Then especially depending on like how easy those future tokens are to predict, then you could do like kind of dynamic multi-token prediction that kind of saves a lot on training costs.
LDJ, can you please explain what that is?
Sorry, the two people were talking at the same time. So Roger, you're asking me this, or?
Yeah, the multi-token prediction, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I just gave, I think was like the best high-level descriptor I could give to like without going too much into detail. But Meta, I see you have your hand up. Yeah. Did you want to mention something?
Yeah, the other way you can think about it is like a token is like a syllable in a word, and multi-token prediction is the ability to spit out more than one syllable at a time. And the cost of prediction is basically because you go in a loop, and in the loop you're predicting one syllable at a time. That's a rough approximation. The field is working more and more on how to tokenize things, like Meta, and there's other companies are also exploring this. I have a paper that I find fun. Adrian and Auda might want to take a peek at it, and then we can talk about it another time. It's the Titan paper that came out.
Sure.
That paper talks about using
the long and short memory, right?
Yeah, I don't want to use that because of LLCM, but it's like if you're familiar with how if you're familiar with how T cells and blood cells work, T memory blood cells, it's very similar to that. The key observation is instead of playing around with just tokenization, which they do, there's three approaches they use, but just rather than playing on tokenization alone. What that paper does, which I think is really different than everything else in that space at the moment, is they look at the context window when they say, how come we always forget the oldest frame when we add in new tokens, right? When we shift the context forward, why do we always forget the oldest token? That may not always be the right token to forget. And so you start developing a model where you allow the model to figure out what to actually forget and what to keep. And that's what that long-term memory is. It actually decides everything is falling off the context window anyway, just because of the way the math works, but you can decide to keep some of that around rather than just drop it.
Yeah, I think state space model architectures have like something similar where it kind of does this in a more implicit way, but you can effectively have like something, you have like a component of the model effectively called like a state space where you can have a fixed state space size. And as you have, let's say, you could theoretically have like 1 million, 10 million context, and the state space size takes up the same amount of VRAM the whole time, but it just kind of ends up making the granularity and resolution of that context much lower as you go much longer. So it's kind of like on the fly, it's like automatically kind of compressing it to whatever max VRAM limit that you want to set it to.
Yeah, and I think Auda or someone else brought up SSMs in this space like maybe a year ago when we were talking about things, and I had said I didn't think SSMs had a lot of potential, and the reason now I think it's very easy to contrast these two things, right? Things is just a transformer modification. It's not actually mirroring the way the transformers. SSMs are a complete different direction. And I forget who we had in the space who was asking like, oh, but be like a completely different approach and we could just ditch everything. And so building all these ASICs that are transformer specific doesn't make sense. I think it's kind of chicken and egg. Now that we have all these machines and hardware that work for transformers, it's better for a model to use the multi-attention head approach than to try to totally change that. So SSMs are great in a virtualized environment, but I think from practical engineering perspective, they're kind of dead on arrival right now until we hit a plateau that we can't pass and it justifies spending trillions of dollars going in a different direction.
Yeah, I largely agree. I think transformers are largely here to stay. I think like maybe some type of hybrid approach might be promising. Like for example, there is already models where you have like attention.
Sluggish, pipe where you have to push something through. It doesn't matter how fast you get past the light speed part, right? The distance you're going is far cool, but your throughput is still limited by that sluggish part.
Yeah.
Anyway, to get back to the original topic, I think the DeepSeek paper is a great demonstration of what a lot of other papers have published already. But just because it came out of China, now people are realizing, oh, hardware is not a great thing. We can't really limit things just through hardware. And it's kind of silly because this should have been known already. I think we just have to probably work really hard as a society to come up with the idea that it's like a nuclear armistice or like mutually assured destruction. AI has to be done that way now. The cat's out of the bag. Well, I think Sam already pushed the cat out of the bag. we have to figure out mutually assured progress.
Well, I think that what actually does make I think what does make them significant, though, is the fact that A, it came out of China despite the fact that there are significant sanctions on ships from on China, and two, it's one of the better models. In fact, you could argue it's the best model in some tasks, and three, it's the fact that it's actually the weights are open and you can use it on your own computer if you want to, provided you have enough compute.
I would argue all three of these are a symptom of China trying to demonstrate that they're in the race. They probably were able to spend way more on this, dollar figure, and they've had way more time since Llama came out to do this. And finally, they probably don't have the same level of scrutiny around using proprietary data, so they probably could just use Llama as a teacher, you can use OpenAI as a teacher, and so it's a lot easier to catch up. It's so much easier to catch up. And then to supersede in a couple of domains where you pick the benchmarks yourselves is very, don't buy that hype.
Well, I mean, we had John on, but we weren't when he was saying it, but he literally he tested out every single one of the. He had an issue with India. He was doing something with. I think it was, and
CUDA.
None of the.
CUDA was doing something with CUDA, and then
Yeah, none of the major models were able to fix this problem, and the one that was able to fix this problem was DeepSeek.
That's pretty impressive. Interesting. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak to people that don't know what the exact example is, but in general, I'm just going to say if you don't have a new approach and you're doing the same approach, then the only way you can make it scale is by throwing more money at it.
Yeah, they also distilled their reasoning model R1 into the training of DeepSeek v3, and so that was something that also gave it a significant, I don't like to call it necessarily reasoning because it doesn't, it's not really applicable to all domains, but if you look at the Math Olympiad scores, for example, for DeepSeek v3, even though technically it's a regular chat model, it scores way higher in something like Math Olympiad, for example, compared to 4.0 or Cloud 3.5 Sonnet, but still lower than something like O1.
Yeah, not to trivialize, but let's say you're starting a new model and you were starting from scratch and you had access to A100s, you didn't have access to H800s. You could theoretically get pretty close to where models are today, in my opinion, if you had enough compute, if you had enough money. The reason is because all you're really doing is using the existing models as a teacher model and then cheating off of what the teacher's saying and distilling down. So if that's all you're doing and you have enough money and time, you could theoretically do it. And think about the motivations of a country like China in this situation, right? There's a whole conversation about they're getting left behind. Ask yourself, why did DeepSeek release it? Why release the models? Why not try to sell it as a closed model or do something profitable?
There's also the question of why DeepSeek, why not do this? Another company like Alibaba, which is already large, has the resources.
Well, where did the money come from?
Is this just me or is he cutting out?
Well, from what has been explained, DeepSeek is owned by a quant firm who makes most of their money from trading, and they just literally, the way they're explaining it is this was literally a side project.
Yeah, this side project that cost how much?
According to them, 50 million for the Jeep and then 5 million for the training.
And how much for the electricity?
I would assume that's included in the 5 million, no?
Also, electricity in China is cheaper than here.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a side project, I think. There's one meme on Twitter talking about that, and then people are running with it.